Chapter 73. When Han Fei saw that there were only 1,023 points of spiritual energy left, he breathed a sigh of relief. He was worried that his spiritual energy would not be enough, but now it seemed that it was enough. However, it was certain that the consumption of spiritual energy was increasing every time he advanced. He was sure that he would need 30,000 or even 40,000 points to advance to a peak-level fisher next time. He was a little hesitant whether to continue to cultivate the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing or continue to cultivate. Although he broke through to level 9 this time, he felt that his upper limit of spiritual energy was a little less. He seemed to have encountered a small bottleneck and needed to cultivate the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing to help him break through. Forget it. The tigers won't give up so easily. I'm afraid the spiritual energy is too little. At the same time, the tigers. Young master, Li Lang has been gone for 3 hours. Li Hu waved his hand. It's possible that he didn't find Han Fei. Even the ordinary fishery is thousands of miles wide. It's not easy to find a person. Tell all the peak-level masters below the fishing master level of the tigers to go to the ordinary fishery tomorrow and patrol the white fishing boats there. Yes, young master. Li Hu sneered. Han Fei, are you stupid? You asked the angel for a white fishing boat. This is undoubtedly the brightest star in the night sky. It's hard not to find you. Early the next morning, as Han Fei's cultivation came to an abrupt end, the sea suddenly surged. Even though he had reached level 9, Han Fei still hid in the fish cabin. Even a fishing master like Li Lang was embarrassed. Han Fei was afraid that he wouldn't fare better than Li Lang. Half an hour later, after Han Fei threw a piece of fish corpse into the sea, he frowned and looked at his spiritual energy, which was only 4,620 points. No way. It's too little, less than 5,000 points. If I encounter a master like Li Lang again, I'll have to consume at least 2,000 points to kill him. If there are 2 of them, I won't have enough spiritual energy. Little Black, go to the sea and eat by yourself. I don't care what you do. Eat until you reach level 3 today. As soon as Little Black heard this, he immediately rushed into the water. At this time, Han Fei was already at the edge of the ordinary fishery 800 kilometers away. This place was uninhabited. He was now a level 9 fisher, which was much stronger than before. If he went to the bottom of the sea this time, maybe he could give it a try. Suddenly, Han Fei was shocked by his bold idea. A fisherman wanted to go to the bottom of the sea to collect spiritual energy? If other fishing masters knew this, they would probably slap him to death. I'm going all out. Wealth comes from danger. When I was an ordinary person, I dared to play with sharks in the shallow sea without a diving suit. Why have I become so timid here? Immediately, Han Fei jumped into the sea with a splash. As soon as he entered the sea, he activated the Wandering Dragon art and saw that Little Black was gnawing on a snake belt, and Little White was circling around it. Are you really that tough? You guys are only level 2. As if noticing Han Fei's arrival, Little White swam over and seemed to be asking, Master, why are you here? Little Black also swam over awkwardly. Didn't you say you would let me eat it? Did you come down to catch me? Han Fei held the purple bamboo rod in his right hand, the blade fish dagger on his waist, and the fine iron fishing rod on his back, and swam straight to the bottom of the sea. A blade fish wanted to swim over to see what was so big that it didn't have a knife. However, before it got close, it felt it was bitten. It hurriedly struggled and tried to find the guy who attacked it, but after swimming around several times, it found that there was nothing at all. Then its tail was gone, and then its stomach was gone. Han Fei really wanted to smack his lips. An invisible creature was biting you all the time. Isn't it horrible? Just like Li Lang, who was bitten all over and couldn't find who bit him at all. As Han Fei dove in, there were even schools of fish swimming towards him and circling around him several times. No matter how powerful Little Black was, He only had one mouth and couldn't eat so many fish. But when the fish in the school found that one of their companions had inexplicably become a skull, they all ran away. This time in the sea, the danger Han Fei encountered was not as strong as the last time. Although the snakebelts swam over occasionally, Han Fei was no longer afraid at this moment. However, once he killed a fish in the sea, it would always attract a school of fish, which was very troublesome. Han Fei had to escape before he had time to absorb much spiritual energy. At the bottom of the sea, Han Fei didn't see coral reefs this time, only gray mud and some protruding stones. As an experienced fisherman, Han Fei knew very well how many horrors were hidden under the mud. Damn it, why did I encounter such a damn place? There are no coral reef. Where can I find the opportunity? At this moment, Han Fei was floating 5 or 6 meters above the mud, his body as agile as a swimming fish, and Little Black and Little White were beside him to protect him. In the distance, 2 snakebelts swam over quickly. Han Fei's eyes lit up. In the cold seawater, Han Fei was a heat source and soon attracted the attention of the tropical fish. At the same time, under those stones, some big green crabs began to show up. Poochie! After a snakebelt rushed at him crazily, Han Fei twisted his body in a weird way, pulled out the blade fish dagger from his waist, and killed the snakebelt. On the other side, Little Black was staring at a snakebelt and biting it. It was struggling up and down, and its body was almost twisted like a fried dough twist, but it had no idea what was biting it. Before the snakebelt could escape, it was bitten in half by Little Black and fell straight down. As soon as the 2 snakebelts died, there was movement in the mud. For a moment it seemed that hundreds of sticks suddenly jumped out of the mud, which really gave Han Fei a fright. Shoot sea snakes. Name green-scaled sea snake, level 7 quality, regular spiritual energy greater than 21 points. Effect: long-term drinking of snake blood can replenish one's chi and blood and strengthen one's physique. Collectible green-scaled sea snake gallbladder, absorbable. Han Fei hurriedly floated up a little. His scalp was numb when he saw them. The tails of these sea snakes were rooted in the soil. Once prey came, they would swarm out like sticks. If it weren't for the fact that their heads were curved and ready to attack the enemy at any time, he might have been fooled. Have I entered a nest of snakes? Han Fei's face was black. He didn't know where to start. They didn't come out and he didn't dare to go down. While Han Fei was hesitating, he saw Little Black rush over and bite a sea snake in half. Yes, how could I forget this guy? These sea snakes can't see Little Black. This guy can crawl into the snake hole and eat slowly. So, Han Fei kept floating in the air, occasionally hunting 1 or 2 snakebelts, absorbing their spiritual energy, and throwing them to the bottom of the sea. As a result, the situation became more and more chaotic, and the number of sea snakes in the nest was decreasing. Even the big green crabs under the stones came one after another to share the remains of the sea snakes. Soon, the smell of blood here began to grow stronger. Han Fei saw spinning starfish flying at him like darts, and hermit crabs with snail shells on their backs emerging from the soil in all directions. The sea snakes seemed to be irritated. We don't King eat you shelled ones. But now you're attacking us. That's too much. So a battle began. More and more snakebelts appeared in the distance. Green turtles swam over, blade fish flashed by, and ironhead fish hatchlings came. For a moment, cold light flashed and collisions kept happening. Han Fei saw that the calabash on his wrist was already shining as if it was swallowing spiritual energy. And not just the calabash, Little White was also swallowing spiritual energy around the bloody scene like an elf in the water. Huh? It can absorb spiritual energy from 20 meters away? Immediately, Han Fei swam to a stone with a weird expression, letting the calabash slowly absorb spiritual energy. Occasionally, the snakebelts came to attack him, but they were no match for him. The battle was already very fierce. This area was full of debris, and Han Fei could occasionally see Little Black shuttling under the water. Suddenly, Han Fei frowned. According to the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants, snake fruits would be born in the gathering place of sea snakes, especially the green-scaled sea snakes. This snake fruit was a spiritual fruit on the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants. Snake fruit was a low-level spiritual fruit. Because the snake nest had not moved for a long time, the saliva of all the sea snakes would mix and nourish a kind of accompanying spiritual fruit. Eating it could obtain a small amount of spiritual energy to heal internal injuries, but its core value was alchemy. The snake pills refined from the snake fruit had strong recovery power and a lot of spiritual energy. Little White, Little White, Little White swam to Han Fei while swallowing and spitting. Han Fei pointed to the ground and said, "Little White, go and see if there is a kind of dark green fruit. If there is, bring it to me. Don't eat it yourself." In the blink of an eye, Whitey disappeared into the soil. Chapter 74. After about half an hour, Little White swam back to Han Fei with a bunch of snake fruits in its mouth. It was so happy that it couldn't close its mouth. It didn't expect that learning the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants could bring such benefit. Looking at the green-scaled snake fruit in his hand, a string of data appeared. Name green-scaled snake fruit introduction. It grows on green-scaled sea snakes and has been nourished by the community for a long time. It can increase the spiritual energy of the snake nest, but the effect is average. Low-level spiritual fruit quality, poor, contains spiritual energy greater than 500 points. Effect, eating it directly can increase a small amount of spiritual energy. Fishers can improve their physique, but not for fishing masters. There were 7 or 8 snake fruits in this bunch, but they were only the size of a thumb, while the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants said that the snake fruits seemed to be the size of a fist. Was it because these sea snakes were too low level? Yes, this was just an ordinary fishery. How could there be so many treasures? Otherwise, all fishing masters would come to ordinary fisheries to hunt. Han Fei swallowed them one at a time. Alchemy was out of the question. Not to mention that he didn't know alchemy. Even if he did, he didn't have the time to do it. About half an hour later, the fighting nearby didn't seem to stop. The sea snakes had been killed, and crabs were running rampant all over the ground. Some of them were fighting fiercely for the remains of the sea snakes. The iron-head fish directly bumped into the crabs, broke the crab shells, and ate the crab yolk inside. Snake belts didn't work here at all. Han Fei saw some snake belts swim in, but in a few seconds, they were cut into countless pieces by the dense crab pincers and then thrown into the crab's mouth. But in the past half an hour, Han Fei had absorbed nearly 5,000 points of spiritual energy. This was the bottom of the sea, where danger and opportunity coexisted. Hiss! Han Fei suddenly felt a pain in his leg and subconsciously slapped it. Looking down, he found that his hand was covered with blood. F***ck, what the hell is this? Name marching sea leeches level 1 quality regular contains spiritual energy 1 point introduction, a seabed mollusk that can be used as bait. When the sea leeches breed, they need a lot of food, so they often march across the sea, leaving nothing behind. When the sea leeches marched, they were invincible in the level 3 fishery and below. Han Fei's expression changed drastically. He was holding a finger-long water locust in one hand. The insect was slippery, and Han Fei slapped it to death, leaving behind a puddle of blood and a pile of mucus. F***ck. Han Fei's heart suddenly trembled. He hurriedly looked back, only to find that dozens of leeches were drifting along the river. Behind them was a black mass of water leeches. Han Fei almost peed his pants. If there were hundreds or thousands of them, they might have been eaten up by the fish along the way in minutes. But the army water leeches were like desert army ants, moving out in large numbers, leaving a mess wherever they passed. Run! Little black, little white, run! No longer caring about these fighting fish, Han Fei shot out like a rocket, not daring to stay for even half a day. Even a fishing master would be sucked dry in minutes if he was surrounded by the marching sea leeches. Han Fei activated the wandering dragon art and quickly slipped away. As for Little Black, although it followed Han Fei, it swallowed a marching sea leech from time to time. You foodie, why are you still eating at a time like this? Not to mention that you are invisible, the black mass of marching sea leeches will eat you no matter if you are invisible or not. Let's go. When Han Fei turned his head again, the crab, blade fish, and iron-head fish that were fighting just now had disappeared and were directly covered by the marching sea leeches. F***ck so fast? Han Fei accelerated, and at the same time, he activated a spiritual energy protective cover and swam to the sea surface. Plop, Han Fei jumped out of the water and found that his white fishing boat seemed to be a kilometer away, so he quickly got into the water and rushed to the fishing boat. But as soon as Han Fei dove into the water, he saw a group of marching sea leeches hundreds of meters away. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Damn! My fishing boat is at the other end of the marching sea leeches? Han Fei almost burst into tears. Damn it! Without a fishing boat, am I going to compete with the marching sea leeches in swimming? Without a second of hesitation, he still had the wandering dragon art. The marching sea leeches might not be able to swim faster than him. Han Fei swam crazily in the opposite direction of his fishing boat. Han Fei regretted running 800 kilometers out of the sea. If it was a crowded place, he could jump on someone else's boat, but now he was being chased by a group of weak insects. Of course, Han Fei was not the only one who was running away crazily. Around Han Fei, blade fish were running wildly on the water, and little white fish and big yellow fish were far behind him. Han Fei even saw a big meat turtle emerging from the water and running away, but the big meat turtle seemed to feel that it was too slow, so it shrank its head into its shell. Han Fei was amused. You think you'll be fine if you hide in your shell? You'll become a shell in a moment. At this time, no fish attacked Han Fei. After all, between eating and escaping was definitely more important. Even fish knew this truth. Dozens of kilometers away, dozens of fishing boats were slowly sailing over. Li Hu's face was gloomy. How can Han Fei defeat Uncle Wolf? Tengu must have left some tricks for him. Someone stood behind Li Hu and said, "Young master, Li Lang's boat is full of scars. It seems that he has encountered a small fish tide. Maybe it's not Han Fei." Idiot! Can a small fish tide in ordinary fisheries kill a fishing master? Besides, Uncle Wolf has the combat power of an intermediate fishing master after fusing with the swordfish. How can the demonic fish in ordinary fisheries kill him? Li Hu was furious. A fishing master. Fishing masters were very precious. The tigers only had 5 fishing masters in total, and now one of them had gone to the heavenly water village. Suddenly, a member of the tigers shouted, "Young master, we seem to have encountered a shoal of fish." Someone looked into the distance, pointed to the sea in the distance, and said excitedly, "For fishermen, encountering a shoal of fish was a good thing." Almost every fisherman hoped that they could encounter a shoal of fish every day. Li Hu was slightly taken aback. Could it be that the closer they were to the border, the luckier they would be? But he still shook his head and said, "Don't forget our purpose. Find Han Fei and kill him. Uncle Wolf is dead. Han Fei can't be safe and sound. Otherwise, he would have returned to the village long ago." Not long after, the fleet led by Li Hu met the shoal of fish. Most of these fish were floating on the surface of the water and swimming quickly, showing no intention of stopping at all. Someone looked at the water and wondered, have you found that there seems to be something wrong with this shoal of fish? They don't seem to be of the same species, do they?" Someone pointed to the sea. "What's that over there? There is a strange big fish jumping on the water. It looks a bit like a swordfish. Strange, how can there be swordfish in ordinary fisheries?" Suddenly, someone shouted, "Not good, this is not a shoal of fish foraging. This is a shoal of fish escaping. Something is chasing them." Before this person finished shouting, another person shouted, "Look, that. That is not a swordfish, that is a person. Everyone was stunned. Are you King kidding me? Someone is swimming in the sea. Does he want to swim to the sky? However, following the gaze of that member of the Tigers, everyone found that it was indeed a figure, but this person swam faster than many fish. Then everyone looked behind that person and saw a dark mass. They didn't know what it was. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Run! Young master, run, it's the marching sea leeches!" All of a sudden, the fleet was in an uproar and everyone was terrified. How could there be marching sea leeches in ordinary fisheries? Weren't marching sea leeches only encountered in the level 1 fishery with a very small chance, and most of them appeared in the level 2 fishery? Li Hu also panicked at this time. He didn't care where Han Fei was anymore. He immediately shouted for everyone to run. Han Fei thought that he would definitely not be able to outrun the marching sea leeches. After all, he was not a real fish and couldn't swim endlessly. But at this moment, he saw hope. When he saw the fishing boat, he immediately activated his spiritual energy protective cover and his speed suddenly soared. Swish! Before the fleet began to escape, Han Fei hooked the stern railing with his fish hook. His whole body glided quickly on the water, and while gliding, he shouted at the people on the boat, "Run, the marching sea leeches are coming." The members of the Tigers who were about to run were all stunned. Li Hu was also stunned. He looked back. This was clearly Han Fei. Han Fei was also dumbfounded. Li Hu? In an instant, Han Fei realized that this was probably the fleet that came to kill him. Haha, it's really interesting. My enemy has finally met. Bam, Han Fei landed on a fishing boat, and before Li Hu said anything, he had already smashed at one of the masters of the Tigers with his rod. Clang, the level 9 fisher reacted quickly and quickly blocked Han Fei's blow, thinking that he might be able to kill this person quickly to claim credit from the young master. But as soon as the two rods collided, this person felt a strong force hit him. The rod was directly bent and his internal organs seemed to be broken. Pooh, Han Fei didn't care about anything else at this time. He grabbed this person with one hand and threw him into the sea. "No, young master, save me," Li Hu shouted. Kill him for me." Li Hu roared at the others while controlling the fishing boat in a panic, preparing to take off. There was naturally more than one person on this fishing boat, and 3 people had already rushed towards Han Fei. "You're courting death. Explode." Chapter 75. Han Fei blasted out a spiritual energy explosion skill, but everyone here knew how to use a simple combat skill like spiritual energy explosion skill. So at the moment when he launched the spiritual energy explosion skill, the 3 level 9 fishers on the opposite side roared at the same time and also launched the spiritual energy explosion skill. F***ck, Han Fei was knocked out of the fishing boat by this blow, and the 3 people were all sent flying backward. The huge force of the collision of the spiritual energy explosion skill set off a gust of wind. In midair, less than 100 meters behind Han Fei, the marching sea leeches had already arrived. If they fell into the water, they would be dried up soon. Swish! In a flash, Han Fei cast the hook kiss technique and directly hung on Li Hu's fishing boat that had already taken off. Pulling the fishing boat hard, Han Fei flew towards Li Hu's fishing boat. "Young master, be careful. Protect young master." On Li Hu's boat, there were as many as 5 people protecting him, all of whom were level 9 fishers. Before Han Fei boarded the boat, he saw the 5 people blocking the bow of the boat. F***ck, Han Fei was not afraid of these 5 people. None of them had the strength of a fishing master. If they fought on the ground, he would definitely beat them. After all, he was also a level 9 who could kill a fishing master. But after all, he was in the air and had no leverage. If the 5 people launched a spiritual energy explosion skill again, he would only be knocked into the sea. "Little bastard Li Hu, if I don't die, I'll kill you!" Han Fei roared, retracted his fishing rod, and hooked directly at the fishing boat with the fewest people below. No matter how few people there were still 3 people on that fishing boat, but there was still one person controlling the fishing boat. Li Hu shouted, Han Fei, you're dead. Although you won't die in my hands, I'll be very happy to see you being sucked dry by the marching sea leeches. Ha ha ha. Han Fei didn't say a word. 2 fishing boats that had not had time to take off were already crawling with marching sea leeches. The purple bamboo rod in Han Fei's hand flickered again, and he was ready to launch a spiritual energy explosion skill. Little Black, bite him. The 2 people who were about to intercept Han Fei looked confused. Who is Little Black? Suddenly, one of them felt something bite on his thigh. He thought that the marching sea leeches had boarded the ship. He was so scared that he quickly looked down. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up, and a flying knife flashed in his hand. Ah! Before that person could raise his head, the spiritual explosion had already exploded, sending the 2 of them flying. Blood spurted everywhere, and the person who was bitten had a flying dagger stuck in his eye. Hey! You shouldn't have let me on board. Kill, explode. The man who was controlling the fishing boat panicked. Is this the loser that young master said he was? Cripple my ass. Can a piece of trash cripple 2 level 9 fishers with one blow? How could a piece of trash continuously use such powerful spiritual energy explosions? After another wild strike, one of the level 9 fishers was blown away and fell into the sea. Save me! Before he could finish his sentence, the man was covered with water leeches. In the blink of an eye, the man's face quickly shriveled up. The other person was already heavily injured, and both his arms were broken. Han Fei easily poked him into the sea without even looking at him. The only remaining fisherman changed his expression greatly and shouted at Han Fei, "If you dare to come over, I will drive the fishing boat into the sea." Han Fei gritted his teeth and wanted to bite that guy to death, but he still looked calm on the surface. "I can spare your life. You can use your fishing rod to go to other fishing boat. How about that?" The man's face darkened. He glanced around and his face turned cold. There were only 5 fishing boats that had time to take off just now, among which Li Hu's flew the highest and ran the furthest. The remaining 3 fishing boats were 100 meters away from him. If he didn't use the fishing rod well, he would fall into the water. "How dare he?" the man said solemnly. "Even if I escape, I will die. The tigers won't let me go. Instead of that, I might as well die with you. Maybe the tigers will treat my family well." Han Fei said coldly, "Are you stupid? If you die, are you sure Li Ju will treat your family well? If you really die with the tiger's unscrupulous habits, your women will be enjoyed by others, your children will be educated by others, and your stepfather may kick and abuse him. You will kill me anyway. What can I do?" The man roared, his eyes red. Han Fei said, "Who said I will kill you? Do you know Li Gang? He is the guy who tried to kill me twice but failed. I gave him a chance to follow me. Look at him now. He is in charge of the world's most delicious barbecue restaurant in the Port Bazaar and earns millions of mid-quality pearls every day. I believe it won't be long before he becomes very rich. Since I can take him in, why can't I take you in?" The man froze and seemed to be struggling. Obviously, he knew Li Gang and knew that Li Gang was living a good life now, so he was a little tempted. Han Fei quickly struck while the iron was hot. "Let me tell you, Li Ju is now seriously injured and half of his strength has been lost. Li Hu is a good-for-nothing. It's easy for me to kill him. A month and a half ago, I was still a level 2 fisher, but now I can kill level 9 fishers as easily as killing yellow fish. It won't be long before I destroy the tigers. If you don't follow me now, you will die in the future. Don't you know what to do?" At this time, Li Hu's fishing boat was looking at this side in the air hundreds of meters away. He seemed to be shouting something, but the distance was not close and his voice was poured into the wind, so he could only vaguely hear that Li Hu asked this man to kill Han Fei. Han Fei smiled. "Look, this is your young master. He would rather die than let you kill me. But why doesn't he come himself? Because he doesn't dare to. Once I board the boat, he will definitely die. What's your choice? The man struggled hard. Looking at the black mass of leeches below, he finally took a breath and looked at Han Fei. Can you promise not to kill me? Han Fei said, Do you believe me? You have no choice, but I am not a murderous person. Otherwise, I would have killed Li Hu in the fishing trial. He wouldn't be chasing me now. The man finally asked, Did you kill Fishing Master Li Lang? Han Fei asked, Li Lang? The fishing master who came to kill me last night? Yes, I killed him. Okay, I promise you. The marching sea leeches will soon pass. Young master, there are still 13 level 9 fishers on Li Hu's side. How can you and I survive? Han Fei said, Fly over there. The fishing boat given to me by Angel Fong Zhe is over there. As long as we get on my fishing boat, no one can catch up with us. Okay. The man immediately controlled the fishing boat to fly to Han Fei's white fishing boat, not daring to stay for a moment. From this moment on, he had betrayed the tigers. The only thing he could do was to grab Han Fei's thigh. How terrifying his potential was to be able to kill a fishing master, but Han Fei was only a level 9 fisher. The middle-aged man remembered what Li Hu said before he came, saying that Han Fei was only a level 7 fishing master. At this moment, he really wanted to slap Li Hu in the face. What a fool! Don't you know what kind of enemy you have offended? Han Fei asked, What's your name? The middle-aged man answered, I am Li Qing. Han Fei waved his hand. Don't call yourself my subordinate in front of me, and I won't treat you as my subordinate. When this matter is over, you can go to the most delicious barbecue stall with Li Gang. I will give you 10% of the profits. Huh! The middle-aged man seemed to be a little shocked. 10% of the profits? He knew how rich Li Gang was. He could earn 10 mid-quality pearls a day at most. He was the envy of many members of the Tigers. They all said that the fatty had become a phoenix from a pheasant. Li Qing's face changed. Not good, they are coming. Han Fei smiled and said, Don't worry. So what? We are all level 9 fishers. Who can catch up with who? After a while, Han Fei saw his white fishing boat. At this moment, the marching sea leeches had passed, but the white fishing boat was also covered with a layer of sea leeches. Han Fei said, Let's rush over. Without the army of sea leeches, these insects are nothing. Li Qing nodded. The two jumped onto the white fishing boat in an instant. Han Fei shook off a swarm of sea leeches with his spiritual energy and immediately controlled the fishing boat to leave quickly. 100 meters behind him, Li Hu was roaring angrily. Li Qing, you're courting death. How dare you betray the tigers? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your whole family. Seeing Li Qing's angry face, Han Fei smiled and said, That's all he can do. Or, we can actually keep them here, shall we? Chapter 76. Li Qing was shocked. How can you do that? They have 14 people including Li Hu. Even if you have the strength to kill a fishing master, once you are pinned down, the consequences are unknown. Han Fei nodded. Yes, there are a lot of people. I guess you don't know how good the quality of my fishing boat is. With a touch of madness in his eyes, the white fishing boat suddenly rose into the air, turned around, and directly crashed into one of the fishing boat. Li Qing was horrified. How could a boat crash into another? Han Fei said, Be ready to take over the fishing boat at any time. If they dare to jump onto my boat, I will let them know why the coral is so red. On Li Hu's side, the 4 fishing boats were chasing frantically. Seeing the white fishing boat running farther and farther away, they almost gave up. Who would have thought that the white fishing boat suddenly turned around and rushed straight at them? On one of the fishing boats, someone exclaimed, Not good, he is going to crash into us. The 3 of them all thought that Han Fei was crazy. Once the keel of the boat was broken, they could only wander on the sea. But they immediately realized that this was not a garbage fishing boat from the Heavenly Water Village at all. It was a fishing boat from the legendary city, which was prepared for going to the unknown place outside the level 3 fishery. Could it be on the same level as their fishing boat? Before they had time to think about it, the white fishing boat quickly crashed into them like a big bird. "BM," Han Fei shouted, "Li Qing, take over." Li Qing immediately took over the control of the white fishing boat. At this time, there was no turning back. Since the moment he took Han Fei to escape, he had already betrayed the tigers, and the tigers would not let him go. Fortunately, this white fishing boat was really fierce. With just one hit, it smashed a big hole in the other's fishing boat, and even the keel was bent. "Not good, go up and kill this guy." Except for the person who controlled the fishing boat who fell to the sea with the boat, the other two jumped into the air, trying to board Han Fei's fishing boat. But Han Fei sneered. "How did you treat me just now? Now you still want to board my boat? Go down. Fly. Dive into the 100-meter-high sky. Explode." With a loud explosion, the spiritual energy vibrated, the airflow surged, and the two fell uncontrollably to the sea. "No." Seeing this scene, Li Hu was furious and said to the other two fishing boats, "Let's go together and see how he deals with 3 fishing boats alone." Han Fei quickly turned around. "Li Qing, find a random ship and crash into it." In fact, before Han Fei shouted, Li Qing had already controlled the fishing boat to crash into the fishing boat furthest away. The 3 people on the fishing boat were anxious. They were the furthest away and not as fast as the white fishing boat. If they crashed into the white fishing boat, they would definitely die. "Run! Do you think you can run away?" 100 meters away, Li Hu roared, "Land! Land on the surface of the sea. We'll deal with him together." Han Fei's eyes turned cold, and he said to Li Qing, "Kill these 3 people first." Bang! The 2 fishing boats collided again. This time, the collision was very accurate. It hit directly at the place where the controller was, leaving a big hole in the bow. As a result, the fishing boat fell uncontrollably. At this moment, the people controlling the fishing boat also gave up, and the 3 of them swung their sticks at Han Fei's fishing boat. "Little Black, bite me." One of them suddenly lost a piece of flesh on his neck. He paused in the air, and then fell straight to the sea. Ah! The other 2 were horrified, but what greeted them was a spiritual energy explosion. They couldn't resist it at all. The 2 were directly sent flying and fell into the water. Unfortunately, at this time, Li Hu and the other fishing boat had already landed. The 2 fishing boats joined together and chased after the falling place. Han Fei sighed. "It's a pity. If we were faster, we could have killed one more." Li Qing felt a chill down his spine. "How many more do you want to kill? We sent a dozen boats and 40 or 50 people to chase you, but how many are left now?" There were only 8 people on the 2 fishing boats, including Li Hu. The elites of the tigers were almost wiped out. "Don't you think that's enough?" At this time, he saw a person emerge from the water. F***ck. He actually swam up. Han Fei was speechless. This person was so lucky that he could still swim back after falling into the sea. But thinking about it, although the other party was injured, it was hard to say how many fish were in the sea at this moment. After all, the marching sea leeches had just passed by. However, even if this person climbed onto the boat, Han Fei saw that the person was stuck to a large number of leeches and almost sucked dry. The marching sea leeches had just passed by, so there would naturally be some leeches left. There were countless leeches floating in the sea under their feet. If a person fell into the sea, he would be lucky if he was not sucked dry. Li Qing asked, "What should we do now?" Han Fei said, "Follow them. Don't give them a chance to escape. Once they disperse, hit them directly." Li Qing was silent. It seemed that Han Fei was determined to kill Li Hu. But Li Qing also had this thought. If Li Hu went back, he would have a hard time. He was different from Li Gang, who had been kicked out of the tigers, while he had betrayed the tigers. They were completely different in nature. "Young master, what should we do?" Our fishing boats can't withstand the collision of that white fishing boat at all. If we separate now, I'm afraid we will be killed one by one. Li Hu's face was gloomy. What if we take off at the same time and fly back to the village? Someone analyzed. Young master, this is not a good idea. I think Han Fei is not weak. I'm afraid that he has already reached the peak of level 9. Once he really hits us and then leaves, it's impossible for all of us to jump onto his boat in a short time. I'm afraid that half of us will die. Li Hu suggested, go to the central fishery, where there are many people, and find the inspector? Han Fei stood at the bow of the boat, not in a hurry at all. He was looking at the sun in the sky, wondering if he would be burned to death if he attracted spiritual energy at this time. This idea just flashed in his mind and he gave up. He would probably be barbecued in less than 3 seconds with that kind of pain. Little Black, do you see those 2 boats? Go bite them. Bite them to death. Han Fei secretly chuckled. Even fishing master Li Lang couldn't resist Little Black's sharp teeth. How could a few level 9 fishers resist it? Little Black swam out quickly, and after a while, someone howled on Li Hu's side. At first, it was only one person howling, but then more and more people howled. Han Fei stood at the bow of the boat and sneered. Protect your body with spiritual energy. If you don't protect your body with spiritual energy, you'll be bitten to death. Sure enough, after a while, Han Fei saw that someone's body was filled with spiritual energy. At first, it was 1, then 2, and finally everyone was filled with spiritual energy. Even Li Hu, who hadn't activated his spiritual energy, had a few pieces of flesh bitten off. Li Qing's heart trembled. He didn't know what kind of demonic technique Han Fei used to attack those people from hundreds of meters away, and even make them activate their spiritual energy protective covers regardless of the spiritual energy. He knew that he had discovered Han Fei's secret. At this time, he must not say a word or he would be killed. Standing on the bow of the boat, Tiger on the road roared, Han Fei, what kind of demonic technique did you use? It's so vicious. Han Fei responded, do you want to know? Come and beg me. In less than half an hour, someone over there ran out of spiritual energy and couldn't maintain a spiritual energy protective cover anymore, and then someone screamed, what the hell is biting me? Why can't I see it? This person waved his stick around, but the next moment, a piece of flesh was bitten off his wrist. An hour later, 2 people were bitten to death by Little Black. One was the guy who climbed up after falling into the water, and the other was the only level 8 fisher brought out by Li Hu this time. Han Fei said lightly, there are still 7 people. If 2 more die, you won't be able to go back. Li Qing listened to Han Fei talking to himself and didn't dare to say a word, for fear that Han Fei would go back on his word and kill him. After a while, Li Qing stammered, Young Master Han Fei, I am running out of spiritual energy. Li Qing was helpless. If it were an ordinary fishing boat, he could control it for such a long time, but this was not an ordinary fishing boat. It consumed spiritual energy very fast. However, Han Fei waved his hand casually and a column of spiritual energy poured into his body. For a moment, Li Qing felt that his spiritual energy was rapidly recovering. Li Qing was shocked. What the hell is this? Spirit gatherer? Han Fei said, don't let others know about this for the time being. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. Li Qing quickly lowered his head. Yes, I will keep my mouth shut and never tell anyone, not even my wife and children. Chapter 77. Li Qing was trembling. The entire Heavenly Water Village knew where Han Fei got the spirit concentration art. It was given by Feng Zhe after the fishing trial. But how long had it been since the fishing trial ended? How could he have mastered it? At this time, Li Qing really wanted to slap those who said Han Fei was a good-for-nothing. If Han Fei was still a good-for-nothing, what kind of genius was he? At this moment, he was extremely glad that he betrayed the tigers. Otherwise, he would have been lying in the sea and fed to the sea leeches. Han Fei was not in a hurry at all. He looked at Li Hu with a smile and said, "The fishing trial should tell us the cruelty of the ocean, right?" Li Qing didn't know what Han Fei meant by this, but he faintly felt a little scared. At this time, the fishing boat had already approached the central fishery. In the distance, fishing boats had appeared one after another, and occasionally a fishing boat flew by in the sky. Han Fei said, "Hey! There may be a glimmer of hope if I fly to the sky. But what if you lead me to the central area?" Not far away, on Li Hu's 2 fishing boats, the spiritual energy protective covers of some people went out, but Li Hu's was always full of spiritual energy. He must have taken a lot of spirit refilling pills. Li Qing hit it. Li Hu asked, No more waiting? After all, killing people is not something worth watching. Let's go." Without saying a word, Li Hu operated the fishing boat and began to hit it at full speed. Just when Han Fei was about to start, Li Hu roared, "Abandon the boat!" Han Fei held the purple bamboo rod and sneered. "What an idiot! If abandoning the boat is useful, why did I wait so long?" Li Hu abandoned a fishing boat, and all 7 people gathered on a fishing boat, but at this moment, someone waved his rod and wanted to beat the void. They had already found that something invisible to them was biting them. At this moment, except for Li Hu, the other 6 people were all dripping with blood. Li Hu's face darkened. "Get ready to fight." At the moment when the fishing boat was about to hit, Han Fei screamed and rushed forward. The purple bamboo rod in his hand flashed with spiritual energy, and he was ready to use spiritual energy explosion. 3 people stood in front of Li Hu to protect him, and the other 3 had no time to care about the thing biting them, and all raised their rods to fight back. However, only one of the 3 used spiritual energy explosion because the other 2 were too weak to use it. Their spiritual energy had been consumed in the spiritual energy protective cover. Han Fei squatted, held the railing with one hand, and dodged the attack of the spiritual energy explosion in a weird posture. Han Fei turned around and with a violent explosion, a person was directly swept into the sea. With a thought, Little Black dived into the sea. Since it had fallen into the water, it was better not to come up. Explode again. At this moment, Han Fei jumped up and slashed hard with his rod, directly breaking the fine iron rod in the hand of a person, and then smashing the person's head. The person was bleeding from his eyes, nose, mouth, and fell straight back. Li Hu said, "Go, go!" Li Hu was horrified. He didn't know why Han Fei was so strong. Although Han Fei was very strong in the fishing trial, he was still strong enough to resist Han Fei's spiritual energy explosion 3 times. But now, he had killed 3 people with just 2 strikes. How terrifying was that? At this moment, Li Hu had no doubt that Li Lang was killed by Han Fei. This guy was too terrifying. He must have a big secret. Han Fei was about to kill the last person, but Li Qing behind him smashed him with a rod and shouted, "Young Master Han Fei, let me take care of this person." Li Qing had to show his loyalty to Han Fei. At that moment, he felt that Han Fei was full of killing intent. This was only a 12-year-old boy. No matter how mature he was, how could he give him such a feeling? He suspected that if he didn't take action, he might not be able to escape death in the end. Li Hu was furious. "Li Qing, you traitor!" Li Qing snorted. "Humph, the tigers are so domineering. I've long wanted to betray them." The 3 people in front of Li Hu gritted their teeth and attacked, but they couldn't resist Han Fei's spiritual energy explosion at all. After 3 strikes, one person was smashed to death, and another jumped off the boat and wanted to go to the nearest fishing boat for help. But after swimming less than 30 meters, he was dragged into the water by something. Another person's hands were naturally hanging down. They had been broken, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. "I don't want to die. F***ck off trash." Li Hu pushed this person into the sea, shouting, "Tiger head attached to me." Han Fei sneered. Yo! Your ugly fish came back to life again? Knowing that there was no way out, Li Hu roared and rushed at Han Fei. Han Fei, the tigers will fight you to the death. Han Fei took 2 steps forward and smashed at him with his rod. With a loud explosion, Li Hu was directly knocked away, and the spiritual energy protective cover on his body was directly shattered. Han Fei shook his head and said with a smile, "Haven't we been fighting each other to the death? TSK. I thought you had become a lot stronger after your advancement, but it turns out that you are not even as good as those people just now. They are at least at the peak of level 9, right? What about you? You are just a weakling who has just entered level 9, and you can't even reach the peak of level 9. How can you kill me?" As soon as Li Hu stood up, Han Fei smashed him again, and the deck was directly cracked. "I heard that the tigers are arrogant? Bam! I heard that you, Li Hu, have killed countless people? Bam! I heard that you had my fishing boat destroyed at the port and made me float on the sea for 5 days and 5 nights? Bam! I heard that you want to kill me? Bam!" At this time, Li Qing had just killed his seriously injured former colleague. Seeing this scene, his eyelids twitched and his heart tightened every time Han Fei smashed him. He didn't use spiritual energy explosion. After 7 or 8 blows, a big fish rushed out of Li Hu's body and bit at Han Fei. This seemed to be Li Hu's only trump card. Bam! 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 The tiger-head fish smashed through the deck and seemed to be dying. Han Fei sneered, "How dare a fish bite me? F***ck, you're not even a beast. How dare you bite me?" Li Hu's mouth was full of blood. He still wanted to struggle, but he couldn't even sit up. Han Fei, stop. In the distance, 300 meters away, a fishing boat was approaching quickly. Han Fei recognized at a glance that it was his teacher, Wang Jie, an inspector of the ordinary fishery. Han Fei waved at Wang Jie with a smile and said softly without bowing his head, "Be a fish in your next life. Don't be a human." With that, the end of the rod in Han Fei's hand flashed and he suddenly stabbed it into Li Hu's chest. Li Qing was sweating and his face was pale. The next moment Wang Jie arrived. He glanced at the fishing boat full of blood and then at Li Hu, who died with his eyes open. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. Wang Jie was shocked. In the morning, he heard from his subordinates that dozens of fishing boats of the tigers were dispatched to the ordinary fishery. At that time, Wang Jie knew that something bad was going to happen, so he immediately went to ask Li Gang. Li Gang said that Han Fei went to He Xiaoyu's house, and then he rushed to He Xiaoyu's house. Mrs. He said that Han Fei went to see. At that time, Wang Jie knew that something bad was going to happen. But at this moment, seeing this scene, he couldn't help but be surprised, because he didn't come here by himself, but someone reported that a battle had taken place here. After he came, he saw this bloody scene. Han Fei smiled and said, "Teacher, isn't it like this at sea? Fighting with the sea, fighting with the fish, and fighting with people. Luckily, I won." Theoretically, killing people in ordinary fisheries was protected. But the tigers chased him first, so no one would say anything if Han Fei killed these people at this moment. Especially when Han Fei was his student. Wang Jie didn't say anything and took Han Fei back to the floating island. When he left, Wang Jie only said one sentence. "Don't go to sea for 3 months. On this day, the Heavenly Water Village was shocked. It was said that Han Fei, who won the first place in the fishing trial, killed the son of Li Ju, the leader of the tigers, in the ordinary fishery. It was said that the tigers chased Han Fei and suffered heavy casualties. It was said that Li Ju, the leader of the tigers, vomited blood in public and tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. It was said that after Han Fei came back, he directly declared war on Li Ju. When the Wang family, the old rival of the tigers, heard the news, the patriarch of the Wang family laughed and praised Han Fei, saying that he deserved to win the first place in the fishing trial. Wang Baiyu, as the leader of the 3rd generation of the Wang family, smiled bitterly after hearing the news. He seemed to understand something. Did Han Fei really become what he was today because of Tang Ji's gift? The whole Heavenly Water Village was talking about Han Fei, but he didn't care at all, because He Xiaoyu was leaving. Chapter 78. He Xiaoyu's mother burst into tears, reluctant to let her go. He Mingtang was also very sad. He raised his daughter with all his efforts and raised her so well. He really couldn't bear to let her go. He Xiaoyu also cried and hugged her mother, refusing to get on the fishing boat. The village leader coughed. Cough, cough. Xiaoyu. After all, going to the town is not the same as going to the city. You will come back every year. He Mingtang said, Go. Remember that you are my daughter, He Mingtang. You have an exotic spiritual beast. Even in the town, you are the best. He Xiaoyu said, Dad, I will study hard and strive to become a great fishing master as soon as possible. At this time, Han Fei stepped forward. Well, He Xiaoyu, I heard that people in the town have a very high starting point and are very strong. I guess you will practice other arts while practicing rod techniques. Here, this knife was left to me by Tango. You can keep it with you. If someone bullies you, you can cut him. He Mingtang glared at Han Fei. Is my daughter the kind of person who will cut people casually? Huh? This knife. The village leader's eyes lit up. He immediately took the knife and looked at it. Then he drew out the blade fish dagger from He Mingtang's body. The two knives collided, and the blade fish dagger was instantly broken into two pieces. Everyone's eyes lit up. The village leader said in surprise, Is this an ordinary weapon? And it is at least a mid-quality or high-quality ordinary weapon. He Xiaoyu also widened her eyes. Ordinary weapons? She had only heard of them but never used them. Han Fei scratched his head and said, It's nothing. It's just a knife. Knives are used to cut people. I don't cut people. This knife is not suitable for me. Everyone chuckled. You don't cut people? You stabbed the young master of the tigers to death. Yes, you don't cut people, but you stab people. He Xiaoyu took the knife in delight. Feeling the coldness of the blade, she couldn't help asking, What's the name of this knife? Han Fei said, A knife is a knife. What name can it have? You can name it yourself. He Xiaoyu snorted and couldn't bear to part with the knife. This knife is black and white and the blade is cold. Why don't we call it the black and white knife? Everyone. On the same boat, Wang Baiyu rolled his eyes. What's the difference between having a name and not having one? As long as you like it, it's up to you. He Xiaoyu said, Thank you, Han Fei. I'll take care of you when I return from the town. You may not believe it, but I can kill an iron-head fish with a single punch. Do I need your protection? He Xiaoyu said, Just brag. The village leader interrupted them. Okay, it's almost time. Han Fei, are you really not coming with us? No, Grandpa Leader, there are still a lot of things waiting for me to deal with. The village chief really wanted to kick this brat's body. You speak as if you are the village chief, and there are so many things waiting for you to handle. Who are you? The fishing boat took off, and everyone waved their hands. It was not until the fishing boat disappeared in the clouds that He Mingtang said, Han Fei, that knife. Mr. He, it's just a knife. Tang Gu left more than one for me. He Mingtang. Of course, this knife was not left for him by Tang Gu, but Han Fei forged it with Li Lang's iron tree rod and the nearly 50 blade fish daggers he got from the fishing trial. Its quality was not just mortal level mid-quality, but mortal level ultra quality. In the plantation, Han Fei walked in with barbecue and liquor. Han Fei said, Grandpa, I'm back. The old man raised his eyelids. Brat, you still remember to come back? If you didn't come back, this land would have been deserted. Han Fei was speechless. Didn't you throw some spiritual energy into the land? The old man said disdainfully, Old people should enjoy life. Don't farm? Isn't farming tiring? Han Fei was dumbfounded. Do you think I'm not tired? I'm exhausted to death these past few days. Han Fei threw the liquor on the table, walked into the field, and sat on the ground. Where was the progress last time? He seemed to be instilling spiritual energy into the ground on a large scale. Han Fei had already started experimenting and was throwing spiritual energy into the ground. The old man grabbed a garlic prawn and ate it while deep in thought. Did this kid kill a group of elites of the tigers alone on a fishing boat? This kid is at the peak of level 9? The corners of the old man's mouth trembled. Are all young people nowadays so abnormal? There was no shortage of 12-year-old level 9 fishers in the town. There were even 12-year-old fishing masters, but there was number 12-year-old boy in the town who could kill a fishing master as a level 9 fisher. 1 month later, Han Fei and old Jiang were standing in front of a large tank covered with thick fish skin. The old man asked, "Are you sure you succeeded?" Han Fei replied, "Yes, but if I succeed, I'll have to expose it to the sun for a while after opening the tank." The old man asked, "Are you sure it's called vinegar? Is vinegar delicious?" Han Fei replied, "Of course it's not delicious when eaten alone, but how many kinds of spiritual fruits in this garden are delicious when eaten alone?" The old man nodded. In terms of cooking, Han Fei seemed to have a natural talent, so the old man had no right to comment on it. Han Fei took out a blade fish dagger and poked a hole in the fish skin, and suddenly a sour smell drifted out of the tank. The old man said in disgust, "It smells really bad." Han Fei said, "Things that smell bad are usually the most delicious." The old man said, "Then try this semi-finished product first. Maybe it will be half as delicious." Han Fei asked, "Let's try it. Let's try it." Since Han Fei lived in the plantation, Jiang Qin had taken turns to rest. At this moment, when she came back from outside, she saw the old man and the young man surrounding a large tank. Jiang Qin asked, "What are you doing?" Han Fei and the old man replied, "It's a secret." Jiang Qin laughed. "Ha ha." Since Han Fei learned how to spread spiritual energy in the land, he began to play with all kinds of things, mainly food. At first, the old man was also very disdainful, but after he tried Han Fei's dishes, he began to study with Han Fei, saying that this was one of the great joys of life. He had never eaten delicious food before, but he didn't expect that he would be able to enjoy it when he was old. Half an hour later, the three of them sat around a table, on which there was a large plate of cold kelp, a large plate of drunken shrimp, and 3 big sweet potatoes. Both the old man and Jiang Qin liked roasted sweet potatoes very much. They used to eat them raw, but they didn't expect that the roasted ones were even more delicious, but the 2 dishes in front of them made them a little reluctant to eat them. The old man asked, "Are you sure you didn't lie to me? Isn't this seaweed? Can seaweed be eaten? And this little white shrimp is still alive and moving." Han Fei asked, "Can't grass be eaten? Insects also eat grass." The old man said, "That's an insect. Are humans insects?" Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Insects are indeed small in front of humans, but humans are as small as dust in front of the sky and the earth. Insects can eat grass, and so can humans. Also, this little white shrimp only tastes good when it's alive. It won't taste good when it's dead." Han Fei said it casually, but neither old Jiang nor Jiang Qin moved their chopstick. Han Fei looked at the 2 of them contemptuously, picked up a little white shrimp and put it into his mouth. He spat out a piece of shrimp shell, and the transparent shrimp meat had already entered his stomach. Old Jiang and Jiang Qin looked at each other and the corners of their mouths twitched. Seeing that Han Fei seemed to enjoy it, they couldn't help picking up one and putting it into their mouth to try it. However, as soon as it was put into his mouth, the old man's eyes lit up and Han Fei spat out a piece of shrimp shell. The old man asked, "Is this vinegar?" Han Fei asked, "How do you feel?" The old man nodded. "Very good. This thing is easy to make, fast, and can be eaten for a long time." "Not bad, not bad," Jiang Qin frowned, wondering if the old man and the young man had teamed up to deceive her. But after trying Han Fei's cooking several times, she found that it was very good, so in the end, she still moved her chopsticks. When the little white shrimp was anesthetized, the smoothness, the feeling of life jumping on her tongue, the rich wine aroma, and the sour but not bad sauce made her eyes narrow. "It's delicious," Jiang Qin asked. "What about this seaweed?" Han Fei smiled. "Sister Qin, have a taste?" Jiang Qin didn't object to the drunken prawns and directly started eating. Half an hour later, most of the plate of salad and drunken shrimp were in the stomachs of old Jiang and Jiang Qin, but the two of them hadn't touched the roasted sweet potatoes. After a while, the old man lay lazily on the chair, chewing the roasted sweet potatoes in his mouth. The old man clicked his tongue. "Boy Han, I think if you don't become a spirit gatherer in the future, you will be very popular as a chef." Han Fei shrugged. "I'm not interested in cooking for so many people. I cook mainly for myself." Suddenly, Han Fei saw Jiang Qin winking at him, as if she wanted him to follow her. Deep in the garden, Han Fei asked, "Sister Qin, what's up?" "I'm sneaking around." Jiang Qin was still cold. She looked at Han Fei seriously and said, "Do you want to learn combat skills?" Chapter 79. Combat Skills. Of course, Han Fei wanted to learn them. As early as a month ago when he came back from the sea, he realized this problem. His current combat skills were too lacking. In addition to hitting with sticks, he could only rely on spiritual energy explosions. Sometimes he even felt that Little Black was more useful than him. Little Black could even bite. Han Fei immediately said, "Yes. Sister Qin, are you going to teach me?" "I can teach you, but you have to promise me one thing." "What is it?" "It's useless to tell you now, but you have to make a promise. When one day you become a very strong soul warrior, you have to come back to the village leader." Looking at Jiang Qin's serious look, Han Fei couldn't help asking, "Very strong? How strong?" "At least stronger than Fang Zhe." Han Fei scratched his head. "Sister Qin, Fang Zhe, a legendary hidden fisher, is even stronger than him. How strong must he be?" "If you can't be stronger than him, then forget it. Even if I teach you for free, you don't have to fulfill any promise." Han Fei had long felt that this pair of grandfather and grandson were very strange. This old man was obviously very strong. When he fought with the village leader, he felt so. At that time, the village leader tried his best, but the old man just moved his fingers and threw the village leader out. Jiang Qin must be very strong. Han Fei continued to scratch his head. "Then, can I have a try?" Jiang Qin looked at Han Fei seriously. "You have to think about it carefully. I know you have the talent to be a spirit gatherer. Even when you reach Fang Zhe's realm, spirit gatherers will still be pursued by everyone. However, spirit gatherers don't specialize in fighting. Although they can control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, their knowledge is diverse, and it is difficult for them to have high achievements." Han Fei asked, "So?" Jiang Qin said, "Soul warriors have the strongest frontal combat ability and the best weapons. The best soul warrior can have both the super defensive ability of an armorist and the explosive power comparable to that of a hunter. So, are you willing to become a soul warrior?" Han Fei was shocked. Once upon a time, he didn't even know what a spirit gatherer was. It was the only time he saw an armorist from the Wang family in the market. At that time, he was very envious. He felt that the armorist was very pretentious. Now he was not only a spirit gatherer, but also a soul warrior. Han Fei felt his mouth go dry. He gulped and asked, "Why me?" Jiang Qin said, "You have a kind of luck. You have been in trouble in the fishery several times and should have returned to the sea long ago, but you survived. Not only that, you became stronger and stronger until you killed a fishing master." Han Fei's heart trembled. "You know?" Jiang Qin shook her head. "Although I didn't see that battle, fishing masters can't escape my eyes. Li Lang of the Tigers never returned after he went to sea. He must have died. Sister Qin, you really didn't choose me because I'm talented. Jiang Qin said with a faint smile, do you have talent? Han Fei felt that he was being despised, but he didn't mind being despised. Battle Soul Master, does that mean I can learn combat skills? I can't always hit people with a stick, can I? Jiang Qin said, there is a reason why Grandpa doesn't allow you to become a soul warrior. Few people can be proficient in two professions, and even if there are, very few are very strong in both professions. Are you willing to take this risk? Han Fei nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes, I'm willing. Of course, Han Fei was willing. Not to mention anything else. He felt that a half-baked spirit gatherer like him was completely useless in a battle. He couldn't control things like the old man. When people attacked him, he could only hit them with a stick. But if he could become a soul warrior, would he be able to slash with a knife, stab with a sword, and use hidden weapons? Jiang Qin nodded slightly. Do you know why soul warriors are almost invincible in close combat? Han Fei shook his head. Because you have a strong physique, good weapons, and many combat skills. This is also one of the reasons why I like you. You are born with great strength, which ordinary people can't have. I don't know what opportunity you have, but I think this is the reason why you can advance so quickly and have a strong physique. Jiang Qin said, since you have made your choice, come to the village library to find me tomorrow. There was a library in the village, but no one took it seriously. It was said that the combat skills in it were not high-level enough. After the fishing trial, Han Fei could enter the library to choose combat skills at any time, but after learning the spirit-gathering art, he forgot about this. Now standing in front of this shabby building, he sighed with emotion. What good things could there be in this shabby building? Jiang Qin asked, you don't like it? Han Fei said, no. Haha. I just think the design of this library in our village is, very quaint. Jiang Qin said calmly, not only you, but many people don't like it. What kind of combat skills can there be in this shabby building? But who told you that the higher the level of combat skills, the better? Han Fei tilted his head and looked at her. Isn't it? Jiang Qin shook her head. The higher the level of a combat skill, the more difficult it is to cultivate. Conversely, the lower the level, the easier it is to cultivate. For a soul warrior, a practical combat skill is a good record. No matter how bad a combat skill is, it can still be used to fight, can't it? Han Fei smacked his lips. Although he felt that what Jiang Qin said was very reasonable, who really wanted a rubbish combat skill? Besides, was a combat skill really a low-level record in his hands? Not necessarily. He had the demon purification pot. Jiang Qin said, go in. Choose the combat skill you are interested in and bring it out. Han Fei asked, how many can I bring? Jiang Qin said, bring as many as you want. Anyway, even if you bring them out, I may not let you learn them. Han Fei. There was only an old man guarding the library, who looked like a cleaner. Han Fei glanced at him, wondering if this old man was a sweeping monk. But this old man was too ordinary and looked like he would die at any time. Han Fei shook his head. How could there be so many sweeping monks? Entering the library, as Han Fei expected, it was very shabby inside, and the wooden floor creaked when he stepped on it. The bookshelves seemed to fall at any time, and there were large clusters of cobwebs in the corner. Hey, isn't there an old man guarding it? Why are there so many cobwebs? The library in the village only had one floor, and there was no legendary saying that the number of floors was divided into different grades. Han Fei walked up and saw that some books had human paw prints on them. Obviously, people had been here, but there was too much dust, so he left a paw print when he scratched the book. More books were covered with dust and didn't even have a paw print. Han Fei glanced at them. Rod technique skills, fist technique outline, fishing technique essentials, iron fist art, iron fish rod, fish chopper. A bunch of books were placed here. Han Fei twitched the corner of his mouth. The library in the village was like this. He was afraid that the one in the town was not much better. Han Fei didn't mind the dirt. He looked all the way and glanced at the names of each book. When he found the names were good, he pulled them out and threw them on the ground. 7 Knife Cutting, this name is good. Oh, Wuji Rod, this name is a bit awesome. Sleeve Blade sounds like a hidden weapon. I'll keep it for now. Wind Walking Rod, well, maybe it will work. Rod Shaking Technique, used for fishing? Can it be better than my hook kiss? Go away. More than half an hour later, under Jiang Qin's stunned gaze, Han Fei came out with dozens of books in his arms. The height of the books had reached his chin from his belly. Jiang Qin was speechless. Can you finish them? Han Fei said, I'm helping you choose for me. I also chose a few myself. They are not bad. Jiang Qin said, let me have a look at the books you chose first. Han Fei took out 3 books from the bottom, whose names were Wind and Wave Cutting Technique, The Strongest Invincible Rod Technique, and Sea-Piercing Sword Technique. Jiang Qin. Han Fei was still feeling proud of himself. Took me a lot of effort to find these 3 awesome books. But to his surprise, Jiang Qin threw the 3 books on the ground with an ugly look and said, so you chose the combat skills based on the names? Just because the name sounds nice, you chose it? Han Fei said, yes. I think the person who can write these names must be a man of great courage. What's wrong with that? Jiang Qin said, the fisherman who wrote the sea-piercing sword technique, well, it's not bad. After writing this book, he went to the ordinary fishery with a sword and then died together with a blade fish. Han Fei. Jiang Qin added, and the wind and waves cutting technique. This man wrote this book as soon as he became a fishing master, saying that he could walk on wave. Then he went to the level 1 fishery to do that, but he was pierced through by a swordfish. Han Fei. Han Fei asked cautiously, what about the strongest invincible rod technique? Jiang Qin nodded. Yes, he knocked himself to death. Han Fei. Chapter 80. Han Fei felt that these authors were simply too unreliable and ruined all the good names. Jiang Qin said, don't move. Let me see the rest. Jiang Qin stood in front of Han Fei, picked up a random book and threw it away. The author of this 9-level saber technique hasn't even learned the first level. He went crazy after practicing the 2nd level. I don't want it. This sea rod is very ordinary. It's not as powerful as your sweeping rod. You can throw it away. This knife-breaking technique is too poor and has no combat power at all. It's just empty talk. Throw it away. Han Fei stared at Jiang Qin dumbfoundedly. There were a dozen combat skills, but in the end there were only 5 left. Sister Qin, if you keep throwing them away, there will be no more. Didn't you say that the quality of combat skills doesn't matter? Why did you throw them all away? Jiang Qin was silent for a moment. I overestimated your ability to choose. Han Fei. Jiang Qin continued. I found that a small half of these dozens of combat skills are assassination combat skills. Do you know that assassination is a combat skill that hunters specialize in? Han Fei nodded. It's a surprise attack. Han Fei felt that hidden weapons were very good. Little Black could be used as a hidden weapon. Jiang Qin said, Soul warriors can't practice assassination combat skills, but most of the time, the conditions don't allow it at all. Soul warriors are more likely to fight head-on. Han Fei asked, can I practice 2 to save my life? Jiang Qin said, I left 1 for you. You can learn the other 5 combat skills first. Han Fei glanced at the 5 books in his hand. They were Gusty Rod, Gale Steps, Blood Boiling, Saber Walking Technique, and Silk Hand. Han Fei happily returned to the plantation with the 5 books in his arms. Soul Warriors. When I become a Soul Warrior, will I be very good at fighting? Li Ju, well, I'll kill him with 1 strike. In the plantation. Old Zhang's face was not very good. He glanced at Han Fei and said, you have no ambition. Han Fei. Old Jiang sneered. Do you know that in any war, soul warriors must fight in the front line? They have the highest death rate and are the target of everyone? Han Fei asked. Is it dangerous? Old Jiang scoffed. What do you think? Only spirit gatherers and manipulators are the soul of a team. In any battle, soul warriors die first, then armorists. How many rounds do you think you can last? Han Fei scratched his head and took a breath. Although I look like a soul warrior, I'm essentially a spirit gatherer. Yes. That way, I will become the target of everyone's protection. Old Jiang, F***ck off. I don't care what combat skills you learn, but you have to plant the land first. When you have mastered the spirit concentration art, you can go to the next stage of learning. Yes, old master. Han Fei did not know what the next stage of study was, but had he ever come here to study before? Other than reciting books and farming, when have I ever learned? Han Fei sat on the ground with the 5 books in his arms, picked them up and browsed through them one by one. After a while, he almost understood what Jiang Qin meant. The feature of Gale Stick was that it was fast but not strong enough, but this weakness was made up for by him. Gale Steps could increase one's speed, which could be used to fight or run. If one was defeated, one could escape. But he realized that there was no chance for him to use Gale Steps on the sea. Could it be that he could walk on the water as if it were on the ground? Blood boil was not a combat skill, but a secret method to boost one's strength. It consumed a lot of blood and spiritual energy to make the spiritual energy in the body violent and stimulate the body crazily, thereby greatly increasing one's strength in a short period of time. As for the walking blade technique and winding hand, they were even easier to understand. The walking blade technique was a throwing knife technique, while the winding hand was a technique that allowed the muscles in the hands to be more agile. With these two combined, one could shoot hidden weapons or practical knives with agility. TSK, very comprehensive. If I deduce it again, won't my strength be greatly increased? Gale Stick, ungraded, note. This is the work of an unknown person. It's low-grade and unsightly. Deduction art cannot be deduced. You can deduce the art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 1,000 points of spiritual energy. Han Fei opened his mouth wide when he saw this explanation. So what if it's ungraded? How dare you say it's low-grade and unsightly? If the author were still alive, wouldn't he be pissed to death? Han Fei didn't panic at all. It's just 1,000 points of spiritual energy. I can't afford it. Deduction. Data reappeared in his mind. Crazy Devil's Stick, mortal level, ultra quality. Note: a genius fisher was chased by his enemies 300 years ago and created this combat skill on the way. Eventually, he killed 2 fishing masters and 9 fishers and died of exhaustion. Shortcoming: easy to go crazy and lose your mind. Use with caution. Deduction art. You can deduce a new art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Han Fei immediately took a breath. Wow, an ultra-quality art was deduced with 1,000 points of spiritual energy. However, the guy who created this armor was really powerful. As a fisher, he killed 2 fishing masters and 9 other fishers. Han Fei didn't know how he killed them. He didn't seem to be weak either. He killed a fishing master and dozens of level 9 fishers from the tigers. Han Fei continued to deduce, only to find that the 5 combat skills were all ungraded. He thought to himself that the combat skills in the village were really untrustworthy. He would have to go to the town or the city to find combat skills in the future. 10 minutes later, all the combat skills were deduced. Wind Step, mortal level, ultra quality. Note: a fishing master encountered a gale in the fishery 900 years ago. Feeling the power of the wind, he created Wind Step. After mastering it, he can walk on the wind for a short period of time. The highest record is 800 meters. Shortcoming: average speed deduction art. you can deduce a new art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Fury, mortal level, ultra quality. Note: 200 years ago, a soul warrior stimulated the power of blood and spiritual energy when his friend was in danger and broke out the limit of his strength. The improvement depends on the physique of each person. Shortcoming: after Fury, you can't use it again within a day. Deduction art: you can deduce a new art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Universe knife, mortal level, ultra quality. Note: 500 years ago, a peerless genius created this art on the first day he practiced knife. As soon as he uses this knife, all his spiritual energy will be exhausted. Shortcoming: as a fishing master, he will be at the mercy of others. Deduction art: you can deduce a new art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 10,000 points of spiritual energy. Shadowless hand, mortal level, divine quality. Note: in ancient times, a cultivator weaved a giant net of spiritual energy with his hands. When the net was formed, he comprehended the shadowless hand. Deduction art: you can deduce a new art by combining the concept of the combat skill. The deduction result is random and requires 100,000 points of spiritual energy. Han Fei was very satisfied with the results of the deduction of the 5 arts. Especially the last one, Shadowless Hand. He was so lucky that it even deduced a divine quality combat skill. Although it was a skill to practice hands, this book alone was worth the trip to the library of the Heavenly Water Village. But what made Han Fei speechless was that among the 5 arts, except for the Shadowless Hand, the other 4 had obvious shortcomings. Crazy Devil's Rod might make him crazy, Wind Steps needed to be practiced on the sea, and Fury was worth a try, but did it need practice? I've already mastered it. The only thing I can try is how much my combat power will be improved after I use Fury. As for the Universe Knife, I'll exhaust all my spiritual energy after I use it. I'm not going to try it. After thinking it through, Han Fei mixed his spiritual energy with his blood according to the way to use Fury. The next moment, he felt that his whole body was expanding and his body was much stronger. If old Jiang or Jiang Qin were here, they would definitely find that Han Fei's eyes were bloodshot and the veins on his neck were bulging. Bam! Han Fei hit the ground with his fist, and a big pit was immediately smashed on the ground. He felt that if he met Li Lang at this time, he should be able to fight him head-on without playing trick. After no more than 10 minutes, Han Fei sat on the ground, panting heavily. Wow, awesome! But I'm sore all over. It's a bit hard. 3 days later, Jiang Qin came. According to her calculation, this kind of simple combat skill could be learned very quickly and could be learned in half a day. As for the 5 arts, it would take 2.5 days to learn. At this moment, she came to take the assessment. Chapter 81. Under Jiang Qin's violent cleaning, an open space the size of a basketball court had been opened up in the plantation. At this moment, Jiang Qin and Han Fei were facing each other. Jiang Qin asked, "Have you learned all these combat skills?" Han Fei scratched his head. "Yes, but I don't think I can use them unless I have to." Jiang Qin. Han Fei shrugged. "Well, I think these combat skills are a bit powerful. I'm not only afraid that the enemy can't resist them, but also I can't resist them." Humph! Jiang Qin wanted to roll her eyes. "Basic combat skills are powerful? Is this the first time you've learned combat skills?" Jiang Qin shouted. "Come on, show me all your combat skills. I want to see your level." Han Fei shrugged. "That's not good. Sister Qin, you're so beautiful. If I hurt you, won't the old man kill me?" "Hurt me? Then try me." Then Jiang Qin suddenly stomped on the ground and kicked Han Fei. Wait a minute, BM. Han Fei flew 7 or 8 meters away and sat on the ground. If he hadn't blocked the kick with the stick just now, he would have been lying on the ground now. Sister Qin, I have something to say. Don't fight. Let's fight first. Use your combat skills. Without giving Han Fei a chance to speak, Jiang Qin attacked again, empty-handed this time. But the kick just now had proved that Jiang Qin's strength was extremely terrifying. Even if she suppressed her strength, Han Fei still felt as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Hiss, Han Fei took a deep breath. Is this what a soul warrior is like? If I say that I don't want to learn now, will she beat me to death? Stick! Han Fei roared in a low voice. When he looked up again, Jiang Qin was stunned and her eyes were full of crazy fighting intent. Han Fei stomped on the ground, leaving a small pit on the ground, and Han Fei had already attacked. Unlike the chopping, sweeping, and stabbing routines of the sweeping stick, the crazy devil's stick was fast, very fast and violent. Jiang Qin was a little stunned for a moment. Wait, is this Gale stick? Clang! Jiang Qin didn't care whether it was the windy stick or not. She decided to fight first. Her fist collided with the stick, making a dang sound. Jiang Qin was stunned. How could the windy rod be so powerful? And when she looked at Han Fei, she found that the corners of this guy's mouth were curled up as if he was smiling, and the madness in his eyes was even more obvious. Chop! Han Fei swung his rod straight at her, only to find that it was easily blocked by Jiang Qin. Then he began to pick, stab, chop, poke, backhand and all kinds of other movements from all kinds of strange angles. Jiang Qin's face turned green. Where are you going to hit? Eyes, breasts, and between her legs. Damn brat, wait and see how I'll deal with you later. Break! Jiang Qin's fists flashed with spiritual light, and she punched at the tip of the rod. Bang! Han Fei was knocked 3 or 4 meters away, but he supported himself with the rod and left a long mark on the ground. Jiang Qin squinted at Han Fei. She was forced to use the strength of a fishing master just now. She found that if she still maintained her strength at the peak of level 9, she might have been sent flying. Zephyr Rod can't do anything to you, but what about Fury? Han Fei's body suddenly became stronger, and blue veins bulged on his neck, forehead and hands. Kill! In a trance, Han Fei's speed doubled, and the crazy devil's rod left afterimages in his hands, and each blow was very powerful. Jiang Qin naturally adjusted her strength to that of a junior peak-level fishing master, but found that it was still a little difficult. Han Fei's strength was too strong and his moves were too fast. No, if this goes on, I will definitely be defeated in less than 10 seconds. Intermediate Fishing Master. At this moment, the two of them were evenly matched. Dirt flew everywhere, and the shadows of staffs crisscrossed. Ripples appeared in the air as spiritual chi dissipated. Outside the arena, old Jiang held the barbecue stick and looked at this scene thoughtfully. Even after finishing the prawns in his hand, he was still biting the bamboo skewer. Han Fei, that's enough. Jiang Qin was very surprised. This was definitely not blood boiling. God knew what it was. Anyway, it was not blood boiling. How could a person be promoted from a level 9 fisher to an intermediate fishing master? But Han Fei was still chuckling and his hands didn't stop at all. Spiritual energy surged on the rod shadows, and Jiang Qin cursed. This kid is using spiritual energy explosion on me. BAM. The interval between the spiritual energy explosions was extremely short, and Han Fei launched 3 consecutive strikes almost in the blink of an eye. Han Fei, that's enough. Jiang Qin's fists turned into shadows and collided with another spiritual energy explosion, blasting Han Fei away again. Jiang Qin was just about to stop, but the long rod shot straight at her face. Clang! At the same time that the purple bamboo rod was shaken away, she heard a swishing sound. Jiang Qin immediately raised her realm to that of a late-stage fishing master. With a series of movements, she flicked the palm-sized flying daggers away. Han Fei, at this time, Jiang Qin finally understood why Han Fei didn't listen to her. Han Fei leaned forward and the 2 forearm-long daggers in his hands were already stabbing at her. Jiang Qin hurriedly dodged, but the daggers seemed to follow her like a shadow. The 2 daggers spun like butterflies in Han Fei's hands. Even though Jiang Qin's strength had been improved to that of a late-stage fishing master, she was still cut on her forearm by Han Fei. Not only that, Han Fei also wanted to stab her in the chest with a knife. This time, Jiang Qin was furious. She immediately activated a spiritual energy protective cover and with a bang, Han Fei was sent flying 7 or 8 meters away. Han Fei landed on the ground with a backflip, but he suddenly smiled coldly at Jiang Qin and a dagger in his hand shot out like lightning. The knife was surging with spiritual energy and cut a long shadow in the air. Jiang Qin's face changed drastically. What a strong spiritual energy fluctuation! She immediately shouted, "Fist destruction!" BM with a violent explosion, the ground within a radius of 3 meters under Jiang Qin's feet was overturned. Jiang Qin looked down at her fist, only to see that her middle finger and ring finger were cut and blood oozed out. Jiang Qin was shocked. A fisherman made her bleed. How could this be? No one would believe it. Even she herself wouldn't believe it. She was a real hanging fisher, only 1 step away from becoming a hidden fisher. She could even put up a fight against Fang Zhe, but now a fisherman had scratched her hand? On the other side, Han Fei seemed to want to attack again, but as soon as he exerted force on his feet, he fell to the ground and fainted. In this situation, Jiang Qin didn't know what to do. If she hit him, he had already fainted. If she didn't hit him, this kid would kill her. I told you not to let him become a soul warrior. Didn't I tell you? Look, he has cultivated a little monster. TSK, TSK, TSK. He was so cute when he only knew the spirit concentration art. He picked flowers, farmed, and occasionally cooked delicious food. But now, he is not cute at all. Old Jiang walked up leisurely, touched Han Fei's neck and nodded slightly. He did faint. Jiang Qin said, "Who knew he was so desperate?" Old Jiang wondered, "What combat skill did you choose for him? Why is it so domineering?" Jiang Qin asked, "Combat skill? Haha, I chose it for him from the library of the Heavenly Water Village. Do you think it's domineering?" Old Jiang asked, "Huh? That's strange. Where did he get these domineering combat skills?" Jiang Qin said, "But the combat skills he just used seem to be the sublimation of the combat skills I chose for him. They are much stronger than the original combat skills. There is something wrong with this kid." Old Jiang scoffed. "Of course, I also know there is something wrong with him. He memorized the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants in 1 day. Do you think there is something wrong with him?" Jiang Qin said, "I just thought he was crazy. Do you think he is actually a lunatic?" Old Jiang scoffed. "Geniuses are always envied." On the bed, Han Fei felt sore all over as if he had been floating on the sea for 5 days and 5 nights. He felt that all his bones were about to fall apart. "Ouch, ouch, ouch. Grandpa!" Sister Qin, after a while, both of them walked in from the outside. Old Jiang scoffed. "Of course it hurts. You're lucky that you're not disabled. You're lucky that your body is not bad. If it were an ordinary person, he would have been disabled long ago." Han Fei said, "Sister Qin, you asked me to fight with you. I told you to wait a minute, but you didn't listen." Jiang Qin looked serious. "Where did you learn these combat skills?" Han Fei looked puzzled. "These are the combat skills you chose for me, Sister Qin." Jiang Qin scoffed. "Nonsense, how can the combat skills I chose for you be so domineering? What's with the rod technique and blood boiling?" Chapter 82. Han Fei didn't want to tell the truth, so he just made up some nonsense. Han Fei said, Here's the thing. I tried the windy rod, but it wasn't easy to use. What's the point of being fast? Li Gang was also fast, so I knocked him down with 1 blow. So I innovated and grabbed a few points of spiritual energy from my body and exploded it in my hand. Then it was easy to use. It was heavy and fast. Jiang Qin and the old man were dumbfounded. What kind of person are you? How dare you modify other people's combat skills? But to be honest, it seemed to be quite powerful. Jiang Qin asked, "What about blood boiling?" Han Fei said, "That thing is useless. I tried it and felt that I was almost cooked. How could I fight with others? So I changed it again. I divided the spiritual energy into little bits and covered the 5 internal organs, so that they jumped with the 5 internal organs. Well, I felt strong after jumping, but I felt a little uncomfortable." Old Jiang picked up his sleeve to wipe his sweat. "Why is this kid still alive? I didn't even think about it before you wrapped the 5 internal organs with spiritual energy." Old Jiang said, "You don't need to tell me about the last attack. You poured all the spiritual energy in your body into the blade and exploded it at the moment of contact with the enemy. How did you come up with that?" Han Fei said, "Isn't it because I have strong attack power? In a fight, the stronger the better." Old Jiang scoffed. Bullsh*t. Although this move is powerful, what if you can't kill the enemy? Or you have more than one enemy? How many can you kill with one attack? Han Fei wanted to scratch his head, but found that his arm was a little painful, so he stopped. But he thought to himself, although my body can only bear 400 points of spiritual energy, I have no upper limit. If the spiritual energy in my body is used up, I can easily replenish it. What am I afraid of? Jiang Qin said, "You have a good rest. Except for the windy rod, you can't use the other combat skills rashly." Han Fei said, "Hey, how are we going to deal with the rest of the soul warriors?" The corner of Jiang Qin's mouth moved. "Let's talk about it in a few days." One day later, Han Fei finally recovered. He wanted to go to sea, but he was banned from going to sea for 3 months, and his boat was confiscated, which made things very difficult for him. The barbecue stall alone could no longer satisfy him. After more than a month, he only got 80,000 points of spiritual energy from the barbecue stall. After deducting the cost of refining the saber, deducing the combat technique, and fighting, he was only left with about 68,000 points. Are there many? It seemed to be a lot, but in fact, it was not a lot at all. Above the 9th level, there was a peak. He could break through the peak now, and his upper limit of spiritual energy had reached 419. But what about after the breakthrough? It was definitely not enough to become a fishing master. "Old man, I'll take a few days off." The old man asked, "Where are you going?" "Of course not. I have serious business to attend to." Without waiting for the old man's response, Han Fei left and returned to his secret cave. 3 days later. Refreshed, Han Fei went to the barbecue stall to absorb spiritual energy, but when he arrived at the barbecue stall, he found that nobody was waiting in line. "Gangzi, where is he?" Seeing Han Fei coming, Li Gang immediately said with a sad face, "Young master, we can't do business anymore. Now no one dares to buy our barbecue." Li Qing, who had joined the barbecue stall a month ago, said with a black face, "Young master, it's the tigers. They threaten the public that whoever buys our barbecue will have to prepare for their funeral." "What?" Han Fei was furious. "Cutting off my barbecue stall business is equivalent to cutting off my source of spiritual energy. Damn it, is Li Ju officially declaring war?" Han Fei took the rod and walked away without hesitation. Li Gang quickly stopped him. "Young master, what are you going to do?" Han Fei shrugged. "What can I do? I'm going to curse that old bastard Li Ju." "Li Gang, Li Qing." Li Gang said, "Young master, you'd better not go. I heard that Li Ju has recovered." Li Qing nodded. "Maybe he has. After all, the tigers are rich. It is said that Li Ju has bought a lot of tonics in the past month, and even sent people to the sea to look for spiritual fruit. He seems to have found something." Han Fei scoffed. "So what if he has recovered? Has he become a great fishing master? How can he be so arrogant?" Li Qing said, Young master, although Li Ju is not a great fishing master, he is a peak-level fishing master. Even if there is still a gap between him and a great fishing master, I'm afraid he is not far from it. Han Fei clenched his fist. Is he going to kill me? How can I tolerate this? Han Fei took a deep breath and calmed down. How did the tigers threaten us? Li Gang sighed. How else could they threaten us? They stood right in front of our stall and shouted. They even sent people to watch over us. Look, those two over there are here to watch over my stall. If anyone dares to buy from us, they will threaten us. Han Fei turned his head and saw that there were indeed two people staring at him not far away. Ha ha! Han Fei walked over with a dark face, pointed the purple bamboo rod at the two of them and said, Are you from the tigers? One of them ignored Han Fei and snorted. The other said, What? Do you want to beat us? In the next second, one of them was sent flying, and the other was about to run when he was hit to the ground by the stick that caught up with him. Both of them vomited blood. You, how dare you use force on the floating island? Law enforcement team, Han Fei scoffed. Now you call me the law enforcement team? What happened to your arrogance just now? Han Fei didn't care. Anyway, he was grounded and couldn't go to sea. It shouldn't be a problem for him to beat someone up. Han Fei went up and punched and kicked them, stepping on one of their heads. You're from the tigers, right? I'll remember you. Don't dare to go to sea again. Otherwise I'll kill you. Who dares to fight in the market? From a distance, a group of members of the law enforcement team came over, led by a fishing master, and scolded Han Fei coldly. Han Fei kicked the person under his foot away and said to the fishing master with a smile, I did it, but these two people threaten the people of the floating island. No one dares to buy from my stall. This behavior is extremely bad. What do you think of it, Mr. Fishing Master? The fishing master looked at Han Fei up and down. Are you Han Fei? Yes. The fishing master shook his head slightly. The floating island will only maintain the order of the floating island. I can't do anything about what they do in the fishery, but the floating island prohibits private fighting. This is your first offense, so I'll let you go, but I won't do it again. Han Fei smiled. Mr. Fishing Master, that is to say, the tigers can threaten anyone here, but if they don't obey, they will kill them in the fishery. The floating island won't care about this kind of behavior? The fishing master didn't speak, but it seemed that Han Fei was right. So Han Fei turned around and pointed to Li Qing. Li Qing, what business does the tigers have on the floating island? Li Qing answered, There are dozens of casinos, fish stalls, and bait shops. Han Fei ordered, Take me there one by one. Yes, young master. The fishing master frowned and shouted in a low voice, Han Fei, don't make a mistake. Han Fei turned around and grinned. Mr. Fishing Master, this time I won't hurt anyone, unless someone attacks me first. With that, Han Fei's face turned cold and he left. Behind the fishing master, a team member said, Mr. Wu, Han Fei is too arrogant, isn't he? Wu Chun narrowed his eyes. Now Han Fei is confident, and he is not easy to deal with. Both of them are at the peak of level 9. But they don't seem to be able to fight back against him. Does he have any other opportunities? The opportunity that Wu Chun mentioned was naturally related to Tang Go. Otherwise, how could Han Fei be able to reach level 9 so quickly? Wu Chun waved his hand. Keep up. As long as there's no fighting. The tigers are not good people either. We won't help either of them. In a gambling house of the tigers. Li Qing said, Young master, this is the place. Someone immediately recognized Li Qing and shouted, Li Qing, you traitor! How dare you come here? Li Qing snorted coldly and didn't speak. Han Fei said, If you know what's good for you, get out of here. I'm going out to gamble today. The two refused to budge. Han Fei's eyes turned cold. What? Don't you understand the principle of opening the door to welcome guests? If you don't let me in, then you can close this place. The two of them frowned and finally stepped aside. They thought that Han Fei could gamble with them. Anyway, if he lost, he would be asking for it. But less than a minute after Han Fei entered, he heard a noise in the gambling house. It seemed that something was smashed. Wu Chen's face changed. "Let's go in." The law enforcement team went in, only to see that Han Fei had smashed all the gambling tables with the purple bamboo rod, and the 5 or 6 members of the Tigers around him looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Han Fei glanced at Wu Chen indifferently and said, "Mr. Fishing Master, I didn't beat anyone. I'll pay for these broken things. I'm actually very rich. Gang Zi, where's the money?" Chapter 83. Li Gang quickly took out a bag of pearls from his pocket, all of which were mid-quality pearls. Han Fei took out one and threw it on the ground. "These tables are mine." Wu Chen was speechless. "Aren't you rich? Why don't you just leave one mid-quality pearl?" Bm. The purple bamboo rod in Han Fei's hand flashed, and he smashed the furnishings in the casino with a spiritual energy explosion. Someone said angrily, "Han Fei, you're courting death." Han Fei scoffed. "Humph, let that old B*****starred Li Ju tell me. Who do you think you are? If it weren't for the prohibition of killing on the floating island, your blood would have dried up." Someone on the opposite side sneered. "If it weren't for the prohibition of killing on the floating island, do you think you would still be alive today?" Han Fei smiled. "Let Li Ju have a try. I killed his son, and I'll kill him sooner or later." Wu Chen frowned. "Han Fei, now is not the time to be impulsive. Even if you smash this place, these things will be repaired soon." Han Fei scoffed. "Then smash it again and seal my barbecue stall. Li Ju can do whatever he wants, but I won't let him off." The law enforcement team also had a headache. They had never heard that Han Fei was so arrogant before. Now that Han Fei had left, he became even more arrogant. In front of them, he smashed 6 shops in a row until one of them was guarded by a fishing master. Li Qing whispered beside Han Fei, "This is Li Dao from the Tigers, a peak-level junior fishing master. He is very strong." Han Fei nodded. "Oh, smash it." Li Qing, "Everyone." Li Dao shouted, "Han Fei, you've gone too far. If you leave now, I won't punish you. Otherwise, I'll block this place." "What can he do?" Han Fei raised the purple bamboo rod. "Today, I, Han Fei, challenge you to a duel. Do you dare to accept the challenge?" Li Qing and Li Gang only felt a buzz in their heads. Wu Chen's eyes widened. "You, a level 9 fisher, challenge a fishing master? Do you want to die?" "Ha ha ha." Li Dao laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in history. Although it was said that Han Fei killed Li Lang, no one knew how Li Lang died. After all, he was at sea at night and anything could happen. But now, on the floating island, Han Fei actually issued a challenge to him. God knew who gave him the courage. Li Dao smiled. "I was worried that I couldn't do anything to you. I didn't expect that you would come to me. If I don't fight you, others will say that the Tigers are weak. Let's fight then." Wu Chen said, "Han Fei, think about it. A life-and-death battle is not a joke. If you lose, no one can help you." "I've lost? I have never been defeated in my life." Everyone was speechless. "Why are you still boasting at a time like this? You speak as if you don't know. If it weren't for the fact that others were afraid of beating you to death, would you not have lost?" Now some people began to jeer, especially the Tigers. Countless people hoped that Li Dao would beat Han Fei. There was an open space in the north, south, east, and west of the floating island. There were some sparse trees on these open spaces, which were originally used for people to practice fishing skills. But at this moment, a large group of people came to the east training ground. The shocking news of a fisher challenging a fishing master soon spread from mouth to mouth. More and more people came to watch, and in the end, they couldn't even see it because there were only human heads on the ground. Li Chen was the witness of this challenge, so he had to take charge. At this moment, he looked at Han Fei with a complicated expression. Li Dao asked, "Can we start?" Han Fei said, I'm ready to blow up your fish head. Li Qin said, start. Han Fei launched a spiritual energy explosion attack with the purple bamboo rod, but Li Dao sneered. A little brat wants to play spiritual energy explosion attack with me? Does he really think this kind of crude combat skill can hurt me? In an instant, Li Dao's hands went numb and his face changed drastically. What great strength! In terms of strength alone, this kid was comparable to a fishing master. But then Li Dao sneered. A battle is not about strength. Thousand Shadow Rod, kill! Han Fei had seen this Thousand Shadow Rod before. When he was in the library, he chose this combat skill and then Jiang Qin threw it to the ground. Han Fei was amused. Speed? Han Fei launched the crazy devil's rod, chuckled, and rushed out like a gust of wind. Clang, clang, clang. Han Fei and Li Dao fought back and forth at an extremely fast speed. The whole field was full of rod shadows, which dazzled the onlookers. Li Dao's face suddenly changed. How could he keep up with his speed? Moreover, why did each of his attacks have such great power? Li Dao couldn't keep up with Han Fei's speed anymore. Suddenly, his chest was poked and his face was swept by the purple bamboo rod. He was sent flying, half of his face deflated, and his cheekbone was cracked. You're courting death. Fuse. Everyone was stunned. Are you a fishing master? Does a fishing master need to fuse with a spiritual beast to fight a fisher? Wu Chen was also stunned, but he was really shocked by Han Fei's strength. Is this guy a level 9 fisher? Li Dao no longer underestimated Han Fei. If he dared to underestimate Han Fei again, he would be killed. A fat black fish was planted in the void and instantly rushed into Li Dao's body. His momentum suddenly increased, and he roared and rushed at Han Fei. Someone next to him shouted, "Be careful, the iron-head fish has strong muscles and bones. His physical strength has increased by at least 30%. Han Fei said, "Oh, 30%? Fury!" Everyone saw that Han Fei, who was small, suddenly became much fatter, with blue veins bulging on his body and his eyes bloodshot. Li Dao was sent flying again, faster than last time. In midair, he vomited blood wildly. He was puzzled. Why did Han Fei suddenly become so strong? Before Li Dao landed, he saw a rod shadow smashing at his head. Li Dao was shocked, but what could he do in midair? Clang! Li Dao fell to the ground and was smashed beyond recognition. Even though he had fused with the iron-head fish, he couldn't resist such a violent blow. His strength was only increased by 30% after fusing with the iron-head fish, but Han Fei's strength was doubled by fury. It was obvious who was stronger. Holding the purple bamboo rod, Han Fei pierced Li Dao's chest with it and shouted to the tigers who had been scared out of their wits, "Tell Li Ju that I will send him to see his son soon. Don't be too anxious." Han Fei hesitated for a while, and then his body seemed to deflate and changed back to his original appearance. Phew! Han Fei staggered and almost lost control of himself. Fortunately, the battle ended quickly. It seemed that he couldn't control fury well. It was too strong. Li Gang and Li Qing had been dumbfounded. Seeing Han Fei's unstable footsteps, the two hurriedly stepped forward to support Han Fei. Everyone present was shocked. It was the first time that a fisherman had killed a fishing master in the Heavenly Water Village. Not only did he kill the fishing master, but he was also unscathed. What kind of amazing talent was this? The tigers. Li Ju's eyes were cold. Han Fei killed Li Dao head-on? Yes, leader, I saw it with my own eyes, but Han Fei seemed to have used a secret method. Although he killed Li Dao, he was also extremely weak. He must have consumed a lot of energy. Li Ju narrowed his eyes. Han Fei had to die. First Li Lang, then Li Dao, 2 fishing masters died in his hands. This kid grew too fast. He even wondered if Han Fei had hidden the level of his spiritual heritage. Otherwise, how could he grow so fast? The village leader's house. What? Han Fei killed a fishing master head-on? The village chief was stunned. Did that old man teach him some powerful combat skills? It should be. Old Jiang was the most mysterious person in the Heavenly Water Village, and he was the only old man that the village chief couldn't see through and defeat. Han Fei was really lucky. Was this the reason why Han Fei didn't go to the town? On this day, everyone on the floating island, whether in the East Market or the West Market, was talking about this matter. This was a big event in the Heavenly Water Village for decades. A fisher killed a fishing master, which was unheard of. In the dead of night, Han Fei dragged Li Qing and asked, "Where is the treasure house of the tigers?" Li Qing hurriedly stopped Han Fei. "Young master, you can't go there. It's an important place of the tigers. There are not only fishing masters guarding it, but also at least dozens of peak-level fishers. Once a battle breaks out, Li Ju will soon arrive in person. The consequences are unpredictable." Han Fei scoffed. "Do you think I'm stupid? Can I fight my way in? I'm mainly observing the terrain today so that I can wait for an opportunity in the future. Don't dawdle. Tell me." Li Qing nodded. "It's in driving Li Qing away," Han Fei sneered. "Cut off my source of spiritual energy? Today I'll rob your treasure house." Chapter 84. In the dark, Han Fei covered his face with a piece of black fish skin. "Little Black, when you go in later, bring out whatever you see. If you can't carry the big things, you don't have to take them. Just take the small ones. Do you hear me?" Little Black rubbed Han Fei's face affectionately and then flew out. Han Fei was amazed. He didn't know whether this spiritual beast was a fish or a soul. How could a fish fly in the air without relying on water? But if it was a soul, it could also swim in the water, eat, and bite very fiercely. Han Fei didn't care about this. He lay motionless in the woods in the distance, and turned into the same color as the grass and trees. After a while, Little Black came back with a small bottle in his mouth. Han Fei was still wondering what it was, but when he opened it, it turned out to be a bottle of spirit refilling pills. Haha, a small profit. Seeing that Little Black was still staring at the spirit refilling pills, Han Fei poured a pill into its mouth with a dark face and then flew back. The second time, Little Black brought back a money bag with nearly 100 mid-quality pearls. Han Fei didn't care about it at all. "My barbecue stall has made a lot of money now. I haven't counted it, but I'll steal some money." When Little Black brought back a dozen such money bags, Han Fei couldn't help it. "Little Black, let's steal something else. This thing can't be eaten. The spiritual energy in it is thin and not good. Let's steal something with spiritual energy or something very precious, such as a small bottle, a small box, or something." Little Black came and went quickly. Han Fei calculated that it took about 5 minutes for him to come back. It had only taken him more than an hour, and the people guarding the treasure house were eating sea melon seeds. 5 minutes later, Little Black brought back a small box. Han Fei opened it and found that it was a spiritual fruit. Because it was too fragrant, Han Fei immediately closed the box. "Little Black, just steal this. Let's steal some of them ourselves." Unfortunately, to Han Fei's disappointment, there were only 2 of this kind of spiritual fruit in total, which made him very depressed. Didn't Li Ju send a lot of people to look for spiritual fruits? Why did he only find 2? It never occurred to Han Fei that a place with spiritual fruits must have powerful guardian beasts. The sea serpent he encountered before was not something that ordinary people could deal with. The 2 spiritual fruits in his hands had killed dozens of members of the tigers. If Li Ju knew about it, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. The next day, "Roar! A bunch of trash! Who stole my treasure trove?" Li Ju almost went crazy. All the small things inside were gone, not even a candy was left. The big things like weapons had rows of teeth marks on them for some reason. Some of them had even been eaten directly. But who the hell would eat weapons? At this moment, Han Fei was sitting at home happily rummaging through the treasures, which filled a whole pocket. The 2 spiritual fruits alone were a great profit, not to mention so many other things. 3 bottles of spirit refilling pills. Little Black ate half a bottle, and I still have 7,500 points of spiritual energy left. Not bad. 1,314 mid-quality pearls. The tigers are too poor. They only put so little money in the treasury after such a long time? What Han Fei didn't know was that there was actually a big box of mid-quality pearls in the treasury of the tigers, but Little Black couldn't carry them. 27 bottles of iron fish body polishing fluid. Damn, the tigers are really rich. They have so many goods. Sometimes this thing is priceless. Body refining depends on it. Huh! Shit. Treasure map. Han Fei was startled. He immediately pushed everything aside. He found a treasure map inside one of the boxes. He was so excited that he could barely contain himself. Han Fei spread out the fish skin in his hand and a small map appeared. The center area of the map was the location of the floating island, and below it was the location of the ordinary fishery. However, this map was not the sea surface, but the topographic map of the underwater, with many places marked on the map. For example, dozens of places, such as coral reefs, snake caves, undersea stone forests, spirit-absorbing jellyfish, etc. Among them, 3 places were marked with the word, dangerous. One was the spirit-absorbing jellyfish territory, one was the undersea stone cave, and one was the boat burial pit. And in these 3 places, the name boat burial pit was circled. Han Fei frowned. He had never heard of any of these places, but he knew they were not good places just from their names. The boat burial pit must have sunk more than one ship. But why did the ship sink in that place? Could it be a place with a magnetic field problem like Bermuda? No, if there was a problem with the magnetic field, there would be a problem here. Who would dare to go to the ordinary fishery? Han Fei thought that Li Ju might have explored this place, but he was lucky enough to survive. Otherwise, how could he know that a large number of fishing boats had sunk in that place? The next day, Han Fei found Li Qing. Uncle Qing, do you know where the boat burial pit is? Li Qing's face changed immediately and he hurriedly said, Young master, you must not go there. It's a dangerous place. Seeing Li Qing's reaction, Han Fei guessed in his heart. Tell me first. I'm still in the no-go period. I can go to sea in 2 months. Li Qing took a breath this time, but he still looked a little frightened. Young master, in fact, there are many dangers in our ordinary fishery, but these dangers are not obvious. And the most terrible thing in our fishery is this boat burial pit. It is said that dozens of fishing boats disappear there every year. Young master, do you know where Li Ju got the wounds on his body and face? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. In this boat burial pit? Li Qing nodded. Yes. At that time, Li Ju was already an advanced fishing master. Although he had not reached the peak, he was not far from it. He heard that several of his men's boats disappeared there, so he went to investigate it himself. But then, in just half an hour, Li Ju returned seriously injured and none of the people he took with him came back. At that time, there were at least 100 wounds on his body. Although he was lucky, the scars on his face and body couldn't be removed. Han Fei hurriedly asked, Then did he get the tiger-head fish there? Li Qing froze for a moment and then shook his head. No. The tiger-head fish was obtained in the spirit-absorbing jellyfish area. But young master, you can't go there. There are not many people fishing in that water area. This spirit-absorbing jellyfish is also sold in the market, but there are only a few people who buy it. This thing will absorb the spiritual energy of other fish. If a person goes down, he or she will be sucked dry of spiritual energy and die in the sea. At that time, Li Ju took more than 20 people to explore this place, but only 7 came back and the others all died. Fortunately, he also got the tiger-head fish. Han Fei immediately asked, Do you know where the seabed grotto is? Li Qing was at a loss and shook his head. The seabed of our ordinary fishery? I've never heard of it. Okay. Well, I'm afraid we can't do business during this period of time. You and Gangzi should also take a rest. Don't go out for a drink. Yes, young master. On the way back to the plantation, Han Fei was deep in thought. There were opportunities in the sea area where the spirit-absorbing jellyfish was. There might have been a tiger headfish there, but it was taken away by Li Ju. But there might not be other opportunities. If there were, Li Ju would definitely go there a second time if he could return safely after going there once. Han Fei was not sure whether Li Ju had been to the seabed grotto or not. There were only two possibilities. One was that Li Ju had never been there, and the other was that he had been there but had no opportunities. If it was the latter, then so be it. At least he would be able to return safely. But if it was the former, and Li Ju didn't go there because he was afraid of something, then it was worth pondering. But Han Fei was not afraid. Treasures. Treasure hunting was always dangerous, but were treasure hunters afraid? Had he ever been afraid? No, all treasure hunters were full of the spirit of adventure. They were all gambling with their lives. Haha, there must be a big opportunity in the boat burial pit. I must go there. Chapter 85. Plantation. Sister Qin, can I discuss something with you? Can you cancel my ban? I haven't been out to sea for more than a month. My whole body feels uncomfortable. No. Li Ju's strength has been restored. If you go out to sea now, I'm afraid you'll be targeted by him. Don't think that you are very powerful now. Li Ju is also a man who has walked through life and death. You can't kill him. I won't tell him that I'm going out to sea, and I'll come back as soon as possible. If I can't, I still have the fishing boat that Feng Zhe gave me. Can Li Ju's shabby boat compare with my fishing boat? That won't do. What you should focus on now is cultivation. When you become a fishing master, you can go out. Do you think I don't want to make a breakthrough? But the key is that I can't break through without spiritual energy. Han Fei sighed. Recently, he had been fighting a lot and consumed a lot of spiritual energy. He had taken all the spirit-refilling pills and spiritual fruits that the tigers brought. Plus his own remaining spiritual energy, he only had less than 60,000 points in total, which was definitely not enough for him to become a fishing master. According to the law of void fishing, it would take at least 50,000 points of spiritual energy to break through the bottleneck, and then he had to transform his body and push himself to the peak level of a junior fishing master. This was no longer a problem that could be solved by 50,000 points of spiritual energy. That night, in the dead of night, Han Fei slipped out and went straight to the port. His white fishing boat was still detained there, hanging in the middle of the cliff of the floating island. At this moment, there was a team of people on duty at the port. A few of them were eating sea melon seeds and chatting when they suddenly heard a movement. It seemed like something had been knocked over. Who? Let's go and take a look. Han Fei passed by quickly from the other side. As soon as he passed by, someone looked at him and he was almost discovered. At this moment, Han Fei was holding the edge of the cliff with both hands. Most people didn't dare to do this. If he fell, he would be dead. Hey! What right do you have to ban me? This time, I will not return for 5 days and 5 nights. Soon, Han Fei drove a stolen fishing boat and found his own boat. After a while, Han Fei had already landed on the water, and he immediately shouted in excitement. Ah! I'm finally free, and you still want to imprison me? Can you imprison me? Plantation. The old man said, You just let this kid go out? Can you do it? Jiang Qin said, He has secrets. I can see that he has been holding back for more than a month. The old man, just don't get killed at sea. Can't you just be a spirit gatherer? Why do you have to do those things? Of course, Han Fei couldn't hear this at the moment. He was holding the treasure map and trying to figure out the direction. We've arrived? Half an hour later, Han Fei stopped, nervous and excited. Was he going to start treasure hunting again? Han Fei was very excited. He had more means than Li Ju. He thought that if he went all out, he would definitely be comparable to Li Ju when he explored the boat-burying pit. Furthermore, he still had the wandering dragon art. Even if there was danger, he would still have a chance to escape. Excited, Han Fei summoned Little Black and Little White and jumped into the sea with a splash. After more than a month of feeding, Little Black and Little White had grown into level 6 spiritual beasts and could now help Han Fei cook almost all the fish species in the level 1 fishery. A moment later, Han Fei climbed onto the boat from the sea and looked at the treasure map while scratching his head. That's not right. There are no sunken ships below. Did I go in the wrong direction? Li Ju, you idiot, at least give me a direction. Otherwise, I would have to run in the opposite direction for a long time. Half an hour later, Han Fei said to Little Black, "Are you ready? Let's go to the treasure." Plop. Under the water, it was dark, but Han Fei was not afraid at all. As a peak-level fisher, his eyes could adapt to most of the dark waters. There are so many fish. Did I go in the wrong direction again? 30 meters underwater, Han Fei saw a snakebelt 4 or 5 meters long and his eyelids twitched. So big. Are you kidding me? Little Black, go and bite it to death. Han Fei continued to go down, but the deeper he went, the fewer fish he found. For some reason, he felt a little nervous. Am I being watched? No way, I don't see anything. Continuing to dive 30 meters, Han Fei immediately felt his blood freeze. He saw a long gully with a width of less than 10 meters and an unknown depth. On both sides of the ravine were sunken ships. They were so densely packed that they couldn't be counted. At this moment, Han Fei felt a pain in his wrist. Did the calabash react? Han Fei's eyes flashed and he activated the eyes of true vision. He saw that the spiritual energy here was extremely rich, especially in the trench, which was so rich that it was overflowing. Wow! Treasure! Han Fei was overjoyed. He found it. At this time, Little Black had killed the snakebelt. Han Fei waved his hand and let Little Black go in to explore. It was such a narrow trench. Once an unknown event happened, it would be difficult to escape, so he had to explore it. At the same time, Han Fei carefully landed on a sunken ship. Because it had been soaked in the water all year round, some dark green seaweeds had almost covered the hull and his feet were a little slippery. There were many incomplete human bones near the sunken ship, which had obviously been dead for a long time. And many bones were broken, which seemed to be caused by a heavy blow. Chi-ha? Han Fei quickly turned around, holding the purple bamboo rod in his hand, and his body instantly bounced away from the sunken ship. The next moment, he saw a 2-meter-long crab appear on the sunken ship. Damn, a big green crab? Han Fei subconsciously counterattacked. With a clang, Han Fei was knocked back several meters. When he turned around, it turned out to be a big blade fish 3 or 4 meters long. Almost instantly, Han Fei activated a spiritual energy protective cover and quickly approached the blade fish, stabbing it into its head and killing it. At the same time, Han Fei left this place. Something's wrong. The creatures here are all big. Han Fei stared at the place where the blade fish fell. After a few seconds, a crab claw appeared, followed by a few big green crabs. When the blade fish's body was torn apart, many big green crabs climbed out of the nearby sunken ships. Han Fei's blood froze and he comforted himself. They're just a little bigger, but not much stronger. How about Little Black? Suddenly, Little White quickly swam to the trench. Little White, come back. Han Fei was anxious. Is Little Black in danger? No, what kind of creature can find Little Black? And what kind of creature can kill his spiritual beast? Han Fei looked around. Although a lot of big green crabs came out, very few of them climbed into the trench. Let's take a gamble. When he entered the trench, Han Fei was not afraid. After all, he had swum through the underwater cave without an oxygen tube. He knew the characteristics of fish. They would hunt for familiar things. Only a small number of aggressive fish would be interested in strange creatures like humans. Of course, he was not sure here. The shallowest part of the trench was not deep, only about 50 meters, but as Han Fei went all the way down, The deepest part here was nearly 300 meters. Han Fei was quite proud of himself, who could go down to a depth of 90 meters in the past. The bottom of the trench was also full of sunken ships, some of which were still standing. Standing on the vertical sunken ship, Han Fei wanted to take a breath. He saw a huge cave at the bottom of the trench. He couldn't see it from above, so he thought the width of the bottom of the trench was also very narrow, but now it seemed that this was not the case at all. He didn't know where the undersea cave at the bottom of the trench led. It seemed that the internal space was not small, but Han Fei didn't act rashly. Little whites circled around Han Fei and went into the cave from time to time, as if calling Han Fei to come over. Han Fei replied, "No hurry. Let me try." Han Fei took out the fishing rod behind him, wound a dagger to the fishing hook, and shot it directly into the cave. As soon as the dagger passed less than 30 meters through the cave, a monster suddenly jumped out of the sand at the bottom and pounced on it. Han Fei was embarrassed. Fortunately, he didn't go in rashly. Otherwise, he would definitely be the target of sniping. The fishing line was quickly retracted, and the monster jumped up and was chasing him. Not only that, Han Fei also saw the sand around him bulging, as if something was about to move. Han Fei chuckled. "Let's see what this thing is." But at the moment when the thing broke through the sand and revealed its true body, Han Fei immediately bounced back and floated up. What did he see? The 2 or 3 meters long thing was not a fish at all, but a *king large mantis shrimp. I left you, Rem. Read 2. Chapter 86. Name Mantis Shrimp Cub Level 10 Quality Regular Contains spiritual energy greater than 111 points. Edible effect: the meat is delicious and unparalleled. Long-term consumption can strengthen the body. Edible effect: mantis shrimp beads can quickly strengthen the body. Collectible mantis shrimp beads, absorbable. After seeing the level, Han Fei was relieved. Although level 10 was the strongest level in the ordinary fishery, it couldn't hurt him. But why was it a mantis shrimp cub? You're telling me that this is a baby shrimp? How big is an adult mantis shrimp? Sure enough, the mantis shrimp caught up with him. Its front claws were nearly 2 meters long. Clang! The purple bamboo rod was the first to strike, but it collided with the mantis shrimp's forelimbs. It wasn't that Han Fei wanted to strike first, but those who had never been to the sea didn't know how powerful mantis shrimp was. His instantaneous explosive force could break a crab's pincers without a second strike. At the moment when the mantis shrimp attacked, its speed, explosive force, and attack power were raised to the extreme. But what made Han Fei smile bitterly was that the mantis shrimp only retreated a few meters, shook its head, and stared at Han Fei with its 2 oval eyes. "What a strong defense, but it seems that I can fight it." Han Fei was overjoyed. At least it meant that this place was not as terrible as Li Ju had marked. Han Fei took out his dagger. The moment the mantis shrimp punched, Han Fei leaned forward, narrowly dodging its forelimbs. The dagger in his hand abruptly pierced into the space between the mantis shrimp's head and body. The full force of the dagger almost chopped off the mantis shrimp's head. Han Fei kicked the mantis shrimp into the water and his heart was pounding. It was too fast. If he hadn't activated the wandering dragon art, he would have been hit by a hammer. A group of mantis shrimps surrounded him. Han Fei frowned. How could he get through with so many mantis shrimps blocking his way? Wait. Why do I have to fight this kind of creature that likes to fight? Han Fei immediately swam up. At this moment, a group of big green crabs were still watching. Seeing Han Fei rush out, they all raised their claws. Han Fei looked around and found a large green turtle. He simply charged at it. Bam! The green turtle was smashed to death by Han Fei before it could react. Han Fei took out a dagger and cut a dozen wounds on the green turtle, before he dragged it to the crabs. With the temptation of food, more and more big green crabs appeared. Han Fei didn't stop either. Holding the purple bamboo rod, he scratched the pincers of the big green crab and swam away quickly. Soon, hundreds of big green crabs began to chase after him. If the big green crabs could talk, they would definitely yell, "You're dead! Not only did you tempt us with food, you even hit us! We'll clamp you to death!" When they arrived at the trench, they saw large groups of green crabs swimming in. Soon, hundreds of them had entered. "Hey! Cannon fodder, do your best!" Han Fei released the green turtle and threw it into the trench, while he quickly dodged and escaped like a big fish. Far away, Han Fei saw that a big green crab that fell first was punched by mantis shrimp. The crab's shell was broken into pieces. Why was it described as a punch? Mantis shrimp used its forelimbs to knock when it attacked. Every time it attacked, there would be a bang, just like a boxer. Only when it hooked fish would it use the limb hook. Han Fei probably understood why Li Ju went back with so many injuries. When a level 10 mantis shrimp went berserk, no fish in the entire ordinary fishery could resist it. Han Fei even suspected that even a meat turtle would be hammered to death by a group of mantis shrimps if it came in. Of course, this was not the reason why a late-stage fishing master was injured, so Han Fei guessed that there should be one or even several more powerful mantis shrimps in here. If that thing doesn't come out, I won't go in. Perhaps the smell of blood and crab roe attracted the attention of the fish, and from time to time, shoals of green turtles, bladefish, and even little white fish swam into the trench. At this moment, there was already a chaotic battle below. Han Fei saw with his own eyes that a green turtle lost its head before it swam to the bottom. Wow, awesome! Han Fei was no longer in a hurry and began to absorb spiritual energy. As the battle became fiercer and fiercer, the supply of spiritual energy was endless. During this period, Han Fei had to return to the sea surface to take a breath. The battle lasted about an hour, and Han Fei absorbed at least 10,000 points of spiritual energy. He was having a great time. Suddenly, there was a turbid scene below. A blade fish wanted to escape quickly, but a fist shadow floated over and the blade fish was directly smashed. Hiss! When the turbidity dissipated a little, Han Fei saw that thing. It was indeed a mantis shrimp, but the data in his eyes had changed. Name: Mantis Shrimp King, level 19, quality rare, mutated, spiritual energy greater than 500 points, edible effect: the meat is delicious and unparalleled. Eating it can strengthen the body. Eating mutant mantis shrimp beads can greatly enhance the physical strength of the body. Collectible mantis shrimp beads, absorbable. Han Fei fell silent. A level 19 Mantis Shrimp King. This was probably the real reason why Li Ju came back with serious injuries. Although the data showed that it was only level 19, Han Fei felt that the Sea Flood Dragon was nothing in front of the Mantis Shrimp King, who could blow up the Sea Flood Dragon's skull with a single punch. It's over. I can't beat this thing. Han Fei's eyes were burning. The big green crabs and the mantis shrimp were almost finished fighting below. There were wreckages everywhere, and the nearby fish had basically been killed by them. Han Fei looked at the huge mantis shrimp king, who seemed to be biting a blade fish in its mouth. It's a pity. If only I hadn't eaten up the spiritual fruits I stole from the tigers. At this time, I would definitely attract a large number of big green crabs and fish. Spiritual energy. If I cultivate here. No, if I cultivate here, the Mantis Shrimp King will kill me first. Or should I go to attract monsters? Han Fei hadn't tried to cultivate in the sea, and no one in the Heavenly Water Village had either. He forcibly took back Little Black and swam a few kilometers away before stopping. Where the hell have you been? Stay by my side and don't let any creature approach me. When the void fishing technique began, Han Fei was shocked. The spiritual energy no longer came from the sky, but from all directions. Soon, countless big green crabs, oncomelania, rotating starfish, and bladefish appeared one after another. Han Fei felt that he was bumped and then bumped again. He opened his eyes. Didn't I tell you not to disturb me? F*CK. Seeing that countless fish and crabs were coming at him from all directions, Han Fei stopped cultivating and ran as fast as he could. Little Black was also stunned. I can't eat so many fish and crabs. I can only bump into you. Just when Han Fei moved, a large school of fish swarmed over, and countless big green crabs swarmed over as if they were going to cut Han Fei into pieces. Oh my God, this is too dangerous. My spiritual energy has increased by more than 400 points in such a short time? So fast? Han Fei took a breath. The speed of cultivating at the bottom of the sea was several times faster than cultivating on the fishing boat at night. No wonder it caused such a big noise. Little Black, when you find an opportunity, bite into the shell of that big mantis shrimp and eat it up. Little Black circled Han Fei up and down many times as if saying, I can't bite it. Han Fei patted his chest. I'll create an opportunity for you. I'll cut a hole in the back of its head. Remember to sneak in and eat it quickly. If you can't eat it, you can only wait for it to eat me. In the ship-burying pit in the trench, Han Fei rushed directly inside. At this time, he had no time to care about the mantis shrimp king in front of him. The group behind him was even more terrifying. When he was about to reach the bottom, Han Fei saw half of the mantis shrimp king's body. Its 2 claws were retracted and it seemed to be ready to attack at any time. However, Han Fei suddenly condensed a column of spiritual energy in his hand and shot it directly at the mantis shrimp king. The mantis shrimp king was also stunned. What is this fish doing? It's sending me spiritual chi, is it that good? Han Fei grabbed a lot of spiritual energy from the void and stuffed it into the mantis shrimp king's body. Suddenly, the fish and crabs behind him were anxious. Spiritual energy. So much spiritual energy. A violent collision began. Dust flew from the bottom of the sea and sand and stones flew all over the sky. There were continuous clanging sounds, which were caused by the crab's claws attacking the mantis shrimp king's shell. It was a pity that this was undoubtedly unsuccessful. A group of 4 or 5-year-old children were fighting an 18-year-old teenager. The chance of winning was almost negligible. At this time, the number of children no longer played any role. Han Fei hid aside and no longer emitted spiritual energy. Instead, he held a knife in his hand and swam tens of meters away from the mantis shrimp king, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Read 2. Chapter 87. If the mantis shrimp king could speak, he would scold Han Fei to death. Where the hell did they find all this food? Why did they bring so much? The mantis shrimp king's 6.5 feet were attacking crazily, and the 2 powerful limbs punched several big green crabs to death. However, shrimp power was limited. It was not that they were not strong enough, but that there were too many enemies, especially creatures like bladefish, which were very annoying. The mantis shrimp king's 2 antennae were both broken at this moment. Han Fei took out a bottle of 2 spirit refilling pills and put them in his mouth, holding a knife in his hand, waiting for an opportunity. Just as the mantis shrimp king's 2 limbs shot out to hit the big green crabs, the joint between its head and body was exposed. Han Fei's eyes flashed and he approached the mantis shrimp king as fast as he could. Fury! Universe slash! In an instant, Han Fei's combat power was raised to the peak, and a cold light flashed, directly piercing the soft shell of the mantis shrimp. Little Black, hurry up! Han Fei quickly retreated and swallowed the 2 spirit refilling pills. Waves of spiritual energy flowed back, but Han Fei still felt weak all over. The next moment, the mantis shrimp king went berserk. His whole body drilled out, which was 10 meters long. He swung his limbs and hammered. His 6.5 feet swept across, and his huge body pounced forward, tearing the big green crabs into pieces. The mantis shrimp king flopped and rolled for a full 5 minutes. In the end, its whole body stood up, and its 2 sweeping limbs cut out 2 water blades visible to the naked eye. Wherever it passed, both the blade fish and the green turtles were dismembered. When the turbid soil settled, There were only broken bodies and broken shells of big green crabs all over the trench, and countless crab claws scattered everywhere. Han Fei wanted to take a breath of cold air. He wondered how Li Ju survived the attack of this big mantis shrimp. Even a great fishing master might not be able to defeat it. At this time, Little Black popped out of the mantis shrimp's shell and looked around. When it saw Han Fei, it immediately ran over. Han Fei glanced at it and said, "Good job. I'll reward you when we get back." Han Fei didn't leave. There were too many wreckages here, and spiritual energy was everywhere. The demon purification pot on his wrist was swallowing spiritual energy, and Han Fei's spiritual energy value was increasing at a visible rate. Haha, we should have gone out to sea a long time ago. Staying in the village every day and relying on ourselves to absorb for a month wouldn't be as much as what we've gained in these 2 hours. The spiritual energy value stopped rising after reaching 86,211 points. The spiritual energy here had been sucked dry. Staring at the data in a daze, Han Fei suddenly found that Little White was tugging at him. Seeing that Little White wanted to swim into the cave, Han Fei patted his head. "Right. I'm here to look for treasures. I haven't even found the treasure yet, so why am I still foolishly laughing?" The cave was very deep. Han Fei swam for about 2 kilometers before he found that he had reached the end. There's no way out. Han Fei naturally swam up. When Han Fei emerged from the water, he was shocked. There was an undersea cave about 100 meters in diameter in this place. The moment he came out of the water, Han Fei saw a stone tablet on which was engraved, "Fishing masters and above, trespassers will die." With just a few words, Han Fei felt cold all over and his joy was suddenly extinguished. It seemed that there was a huge threat in this cave. Han Fei swallowed. "I'm not a fishing master yet. Is it okay to go in?" He climbed ashore and looked around, immediately confirming that someone had been cultivating here. There were beds, tables and stools, and a large pool of 5 or 6 square meters here. Han Fei looked at the mantis shrimp's footprints, which led to the pool. Han Fei walked over and immediately felt that the spiritual energy was extremely abundant. Above the pool, there was a milky white liquid dripping into the pool. Wow! The spiritual energy is so rich. Is this pool full of liquefied spiritual energy? Unfortunately, there was not much white liquid in the pool. It was only ankle deep. A lot of it must have been sucked away by the mantis shrimp king. Han Fei was about to explore the entire space, but Little Black and Little White had already taken a bath in the milky white pool. The 2 fishes were very happy. But then Han Fei's face changed. Just now, a luster flashed on the 2 fishes. He had done this 5 or 6 times in the past month, which meant that Little Black and Little White had leveled up. Seeing this, Han Fei couldn't hold back anymore. He sat in the pool and began to cultivate. Otherwise, if a treasure that I worked so hard to find was killed by 2 fishes, who would I cry to? As soon as he sat in the pool, Han Fei felt spiritual energy pouring into his body. He was overjoyed and activated the void fishing art. After a while, Han Fei's face turned red. He felt that the spiritual energy in his body was surging, and the spiritual energy flowing in his meridians was even crowded to the point of boiling. Breakthrough! As Han Fei shouted, the spiritual energy in his body instantly penetrated into his bones and muscles, and at the same time, the spiritual energy in the white liquid in the pool drilled into Han Fei's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. After 4 or 5 minutes, Han Fei felt a resistance. Is it the bottleneck of a fishing master? Break. After dozens of consecutive collisions, something seemed to break, and Han Fei felt that the congested spiritual energy in his body was instantly unblocked. Trickles of spiritual energy converged, spiritual energy surged like rivers and clouds, his meridians became tough, his bones creaked, his muscles bulged, and there seemed to be an explosive force in his body. Han Fei knew that the breakthrough didn't stop. The spiritual energy was rapidly strengthening his physique. After about half an hour, Han Fei felt that his body had been transformed and he had even reached the peak of a junior fishing master. If he could even become an intermediate fishing master. But at this moment, Han Fei's face changed. He wanted to get up. If he wanted to make a breakthrough before he adapted to it, it would only destroy his foundation. No! Han Fei was speechless. The void fishing art was running on its own, oppressing him. Hey! Calabash, help me! Calabash! Brother Calabash! Little Black, drink for me. Drink this pool dry for me. Little did he know that at this moment, Little Black and Little White were lying in the pool and didn't even flop. Their bellies were bulging and they were too lazy to move. Han Fei's face changed slightly. He had never heard of people pouring spiritual energy into their bodies instead of cultivating. Is it because I'm sitting in this pool to cultivate? No, I'll explode if I don't make a breakthrough. Just when Han Fei was thinking about this, he suddenly thought of something. His Forge the Universe only had a few square meters. Could he expand it? Han Fei kept pouring the spiritual energy in his body into it, and the space in Forge the Universe was expanding bit by bit, expanding by more than 1 meter in a minute. When the space in Forge the Universe was expanded to 10 square meters, the expansion speed immediately slowed down. However, the garlic, peppers, and other things he planted before, under the catalysis of spiritual energy, began to grow directly and were ripe after a while. Half a day later, or maybe a day later, Han Fei's Forge the Universe had expanded to nearly 50 square meters. Han Fei wondered where his white fishing boat had drifted to. After all, he hadn't been on it for a long time. The boat should have drifted away. If only Forge the Universe could become rectangular, then he could throw the boat into Forge the Universe when he went out. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, Forge the Universe changed from a circular space to a rectangular space. Damn, this works? Han Fei was stunned. Can I change the terrain in this space at will? With a thought from Han Fei, a pond appeared here, and with another thought, the space became a square. This is too awesome, isn't it? Can I make a living person come to life? Han Fei thought for a while and prepared to make a pig. He hadn't eaten pork for a long time, so he might as well make a pig and kill it. Unfortunately, there was no change in the space this time. Han Fei kept trying, but it seemed that he could only change the terrain. As for flowers, trees, birds, and beasts, he couldn't. But then again, it made sense. If this was possible, wouldn't he be the creator? In the end, the space of Forge the Universe stopped at about 60 square meters. At this time, Han Fei no longer felt a huge amount of spiritual energy washing his body. Han Fei opened his eyes. His body was sticky again. The first thing he did was to look at his own data. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 13, Junior Fishing Master, spiritual energy greater than 156,666, 559, spiritual heritage, level 3, mid-quality, upgradable, spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish weapon, purple bamboo rod, main art, void fishing, chapter 1. Hook kiss, mortal level, divine quality, I didn't upgrade my spiritual heritage. Why did my spiritual heritage upgrade? But why did the word upgradable turn gray? Han Fei was a little flustered. Is it because my spiritual heritage has been upgraded too much? Or is there any condition that can't be upgraded? Read 2. Chapter 88. Han Fei pondered over the information brought by this string of data. First of all, his spiritual heritage might not be able to be upgraded for the time being. It seemed to be restricted by some unknown force. He tried to upgrade it with spiritual energy, but there was no reaction. Secondly, the changes brought about by his level. This time, he must have spent a lot of spiritual energy to promote to a fishing master, which directly pushed him to the peak of a junior fishing master. And it was this number that explained the problem. Everyone's concept of fishing masters was that they were divided into grades, but the data showed that he was level 13. It seemed that the grade was secondary, which was very important. This meant that there might be a big gap between junior fishing masters. Even though his upper limit of spiritual energy had been increased to 559 points, Han Fei still felt that there was still a lot of room for improvement in the field of junior fishing masters. After all, he hadn't practiced the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing, and his physique was not really at its peak yet. Thinking of this, Han Fei felt that it was necessary for him to consolidate his strength now. As the saying goes, more haste, less speed. It was good to become stronger, but if his strength improved too fast, there would definitely be problems. This was common sense. Of course, Han Fei didn't intend to practice the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing here. He hadn't explored this 100 square meter space yet. Han Fei looked down and found that the two little fishes, Little Black and Little White, were shining with spiritual energy. Did these two little fishes improve too fast? Their stomachs were bulging. Of course, what surprised Han Fei most was that the white liquid in this pool had completely disappeared. He must have used too much when expanding Forge the Universe. Otherwise, the amount of spiritual energy contained in the white liquid was enough to blow him up dozens of times. Han Fei took back Little Black and Little White and began to explore this space. In addition to the bed, tables and chairs, there was also a special place for cultivation. When he saw this, Han Fei knew that his cultivation method was wrong. Even the owner didn't sit in the pool to cultivate, but Han Fei sat in the pool like an idiot, mainly because of the influence of the Mantis Shrimp King's footprints. Walking past the place where the cave owner cultivated, Han Fei found a few pits on the rock wall. He walked over and found 2 books on them. Han Fei picked up a book without a name and took a look. It was roughly the cave owner's self-record of cultivation. The record only began when the man discovered the underwater cave. On the first page it said, "I was defeated and fell here. I thought I would die for sure, but God took pity on me and let me find a spiritual spring in an ordinary fishery. Unfortunately, my injuries are too heavy and the spiritual spring is too little. I am unable to make up for my losses. I know I don't have much time left, but there is nothing I can do. Page 2, my foundation has been damaged and I can no longer cultivate. Forget it, what's the harm in being buried here? Page 3, on the 7th day of lying here waiting for death, the spiritual energy in my body has dried up, and I can't absorb any spiritual energy from the spirit spring. I know I'm done for. Page 4, this sea area is rich in mantis shrimps, and they taste good. I accompany mantis shrimps every day. Page 5, why aren't you dead? I've been waiting for death here for a month. Why haven't I died yet? Page 6, I've made a shocking discovery. Do cultivators really only need to cultivate spiritual energy? Wrong, very wrong. After eating mantis shrimps for a long time, I found that my blood and chi were abundant. My spiritual power and blood are intertwining, and I can control objects in the air without spiritual energy. See God, I've discovered a great secret. Do cultivators really only need to cultivate spiritual energy? No, spiritual energy cultivation is just one way, but there is another way to cultivate oneself. When he read this, Han Fei's heart beat fast. What does this person mean? He already has no spiritual energy, but he can still cultivate. What does this mean? Han Fei couldn't wait to turn the pages. Page 7 It took me a year to create a physical combat method. At this moment, I feel that my body is so strong that even hidden fissures are no match for it. But there are still some shortcomings. I know. My spiritual power is seriously damaged. Ha ha ha, wait for me. When I find a way to repair my spiritual power, I will break through the 1,000-star city one day. Han Fei hurriedly turned the pages, only to find that there was no follow-up. Did this mean that this strong master had left to find a way to repair his spiritual power? F***CK. I feel like I missed 100 million yuan. However, Han Fei looked at another book, and after turning the first page, he saw 3 big words: indestructible body. Han Fei was shocked. He felt that he had missed 100 million yuan just now, but now this awesome guy left the physical cultivation method to him? Han Fei opened the cultivation method excitedly, but the first page was not a cultivation method. Han Fei frowned and thought it was written on it. I don't know who will inherit my indestructible body, but since you can enter here as a fisher, it shows that you are very talented. You have 2 choices. First, don't cultivate and leave the indestructible body here. Second, cultivate. Even if you are a good-for-nothing, as long as you are willing to work hard, your body can be as strong as a god. However, if you cultivate the indestructible body, you will be half a disciple of Ren Tianfei. When you go to the 1,000-star city in the future, don't get involved with me. Otherwise, you will probably be killed by my enemies. Of course, it is also possible that you are a good-for-nothing who still died on the way after getting my indestructible body. But it doesn't matter. I left you a map. If you can set foot in the level 3 fishery one day, you can look for it. If you can't even go to the level 3 fishery and can't even find the place where my treasures are, then you are basically a good-for-nothing and I don't want you as my disciple. Sure enough, Han Fei found a fish skin map at the end of the book. It was a map of the sea area that he had never seen before. The terrain was very complicated and a red dot was circled on it. Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How arrogant this person is. He wants to break through a city and become a god? But it's really domineering. I like it so much. Han Fei turned the book and snorted. I won't have anything to do with you. I don't know what kind of enemies I will encounter if I fight all the way from the city to here. Do you think I am your disciple just because you say I am? Then I will lose face. At most, I will owe you a favor. He turned the page and saw that it said, the mystery of the human body can basically be divided into 5 levels: skin, flesh, viscera, bone, and marrow. When you reach the advanced level of skin toughening, you will be invincible in close combat. When you reach the advanced level of viscera tempering, you can recover from all kinds of injuries. When you reach the advanced level of bone toughening, your fists will be as hard as divine weapons. When you reach the advanced level of marrow tempering, you will achieve ice skin and jade bones, and you will become an immortal and become a god. Han Fei was drooling as he read it. What a treasure! It's so awesome. It's completely different from those garbage books in the library of the Heavenly Water Village. This is the real divine art. This is the real genius. But Han Fei's first reaction was to look at the data of the indestructible body. Indestructible body, venerable level, peerless quality, remarks the peerless heavenly talent of the 1,000-star city created the indestructible body technique, which is only 1 step away from a divine quality technique. Deduce technique, indestructible body, deduction cost 100 million point. Han Fei was dumbfounded. He felt that his eyes were dazzled and even rubbed them. F***ck, why don't you rob a bank? You can't get so much spiritual energy even if you rob a bank. 100 million points? Are you trying to kill me? Han Fei was speechless. 100 million points? Isn't the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing also a venerable level? Why is this venerable level so awesome? Deducing 100 million points? Although Han Fei was shocked, he just complained. After all, a combat skill like the Shadowless Hand was only a mortal-level divine quality combat skill, while the indestructible body technique was a venerable-level combat skill. Although he didn't know the specific level of the technique, he knew how much spiritual energy it would cost to deduce it. If it wasn't an amazing technique, how could it cost so much spiritual energy? Han Fei immediately threw the book into Forge the Universe. Since he got it, he would never leave it to others. If it was taken away by others, how could he cry? Han Fei walked around the cave and found nothing else, so he walked out without hesitation. When he left, he said to the air, "I've taken the treasure away. I'll definitely go to the next treasure. Wait for me. I'm a professional in treasure hunting." Read 2. Chapter 89. Li Ju had long received the news that Han Fei had stolen his fishing boat and gone to sea. For this reason, the village leader said that when Han Fei came back, he would lock his fishing boat in his house and let this kid stay on the floating island. Of course, the news couldn't be concealed. Li Ju had been waiting for this moment for a long time. A few days ago, Han Fei killed a fishing master. If Han Fei was given more time, he might really be used as a whetstone and he would never be able to avenge his son. Li Ju went to sea. Instead of leaving the port, he used the tiger's fishing boat. Although Li Ju left quietly, he still couldn't escape the attention of some people. At this moment, in the plantation, the village leader was angry. "Old Jiang, did you really let that kid go out? If he dies at sea, how can our heavenly water village explain it to Tang Go when he comes back?" Old Jiang lay in a chair and said slowly, "Bulsh *t. Tang Go kept Li Ju alive just to let him be a whetstone for that kid." Whetstone? How can it be called whetstone without going through wind and rain and life and death? If he dies, he can only blame himself for his incompetence. Who else can he blame? The village leader said angrily, "It's easy for you to say that. You are not the village leader. Of course you don't feel any pressure. Besides, Li Ju has gone to sea. Although I have asked Wang Jie to look for him, the ordinary fishery is so big. I don't know if he can be found. What if?" At this moment, Jiang Qin appeared. "Han Fei is not as bad as you think. Although he is no match for Li Ju, it's not a problem for him to escape." The village leader. The village leader was dumbfounded. What does she mean? A peak-level fishing master can chase a fisherman and escape? Outside the cave, Han Fei happily took out the mantis shrimp beads from the heads of the mantis shrimp and stuffed the body of the mantis shrimp king into Forge the Universe. After all, the shell of this thing was really hard and he could use it to make a few knives. Only 168 mantis shrimp beads? Looking at the dead bodies all over the ground, Han Fei didn't know what to say. He could only say that the mantis shrimp's combat power was too strong. With only 100 mantis shrimp, they almost wiped out thousands of fish and crabs. In the end, at least half of the mantis shrimp king was killed. If it hadn't been bitten to death by Little Black, no matter how many fish and crabs there were, they would still have been killed. Swimming out of the trench, Han Fei glanced at the wreckage of the fishing boat around and went straight to the surface. Along the way, some snakebelts tried to bite Han Fei, but Little Black was no longer the Little Black of yesterday. It was 10 centimeters bigger and didn't look like a baby fish anymore. The so-called snakebelt was bitten in half by Little Black's mouth, and it had no strength to fight back. On the surface of the sea, Han Fei's first reaction was that it was not even noon yet. Han Fei let out a sigh of relief. That was good. Although the boat-burying pit was not very remote, it was still nearly 500 kilometers away from the Heavenly Water Village. There shouldn't be many people who would fly here to fish. Little Black, Little White, go and find where my boat is. Of course, Han Fei didn't see his boat. He didn't know where it had drifted all night, but it shouldn't be more than 50 kilometers away. So, while practicing wind step, he searched around. If someone was nearby at this time, they would definitely be shocked to the point that their eyeballs would fall out. They would see a guy walking on air above the sea as if he was flying. Although he could only fly dozens of meters at most and would fall into the sea after 100 meters, he was still flying. How could people not be shocked? When Han Fei found the white fishing boat, it was already 30 kilometers away. He ran in the wrong direction and turned around. During this period, he also saw 2 fishing boats, and some people were fishing. But of course, Han Fei couldn't let them find him, so he kept moving underwater, like a big human-shaped fish. Pooh! After getting on the boat, Han Fei was not in a hurry to go back. He stole the fishing boat and ran back. He was afraid that if he went back, he wouldn't be able to get out, so he had to continue farming in the plantation. But Han Fei didn't want to farm now. He had already learned the spirit concentration art. Unless the old man was going to teach him something new, what was the point of farming? He didn't know if Jiang Qin had any new combat skills for him, but after thinking about it, he remembered that he had just practiced 5 combat skills, which was enough for now. Besides, what good things could there be in the heavenly water village? He might as well stay at sea and study the indestructible body art. If he could master it, he would be really awesome. Of course, Han Fei was not in a hurry. He started practicing the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body polishing. He had just become a fishing master and needed to temper his body. When Han Fei practiced the 108 postures again, he felt that it was easier, maybe because of the improvement of his strength. If it took nearly 6 hours to practice the 108 postures once before, it seemed that it only took him 4 hours now. Just when Han Fei was practicing the 8th posture, he heard a swish, and something broke through the air to him. Han Fei immediately stopped practicing and dodged to the side, only to see a fish hook shining with spiritual energy appear in his cultivation place. When he took a closer look, there was already a fishing boat dozens of meters away. When Li Ju found that his map was stolen and then Han Fei stole a boat and fled, he knew that Han Fei must have seen his sea map. He thought that Han Fei would go to the seabed grotto first because he didn't mark that place on the map. However, after searching around the seabed grotto, he didn't find it, so he went to the gathering place of the spirit-absorbing jellyfish. After all, he got his tiger-head fish from there. However, Li Ju was surprised to find that there were no spirit-absorbing jellyfish there either, so he guessed that this guy was courting death by going to the boat-burying pit. Li Ju hoped that Han Fei wouldn't really go down. Otherwise, Han Fei would be torn to pieces before he could take revenge. After all, the Mantis Shrimp King was too terrifying. He felt lucky that he was able to escape. Han Fei thief, I've finally caught you. Let's see where you can run today. Looking at Li Ju, who was leaping over, Han Fei stretched out his hand and the purple bamboo rod shone. Bm. Han Fei took 7 or 8 steps back and felt his arms slightly numb. He narrowed his eyes. Li Ju was really a peak-level fishing master. His strength was really terrifying. But Li Ju was shocked. Han Fei took a blow from him and was still fine? Have you become a fishing master? Han Fei twisted his neck. As you wish. I've just become a fishing master. Coincidentally, you're here. Li Ju was shocked. How could this thief's talent be so terrifying? In the past, he suspected that it was because of Tang Go that Han Fei had been advancing so smoothly and quickly. But now it was different. What was Han Fei's level when Tang Go left? But now Han Fei was a fishing master? Li Ju's face changed slightly. Even if you are a fishing master, so what? I'll kill you today. Han Fei continued. How do you know that I didn't wait for you here on purpose? The floating island restricts your movement and also restricts me. Since you're here, you don't have to go back. Arrogant. Go to hell. After Li Ju launched a wild spiritual energy explosion, Han Fei, who also launched a spiritual energy explosion, was directly blasted more than 20 meters away. Just one blow made Han Fei's arms numb and his internal organs tumble. This time, his internal organs were really tumbling, and his internal organs were very uncomfortable. But just when Li Ju thought Han Fei was going to fall into the water, Han Fei stepped on the air, as if a gust of wind had sent him back. At this moment, Han Fei looked fierce and chuckled, which was indescribably weird. How is it possible? Li Ju was really shocked. Just now, he had used 80% of his strength in the blow, but Han Fei was still unscathed and could even hit him? Clang, clang, clang. Han Fei's speed was extremely fast. The purple bamboo rod was like a dagger in his hand, which was fancy but aimed directly at the vital parts. The eyes, the throat, the genitals, the armpits, wherever the tricky place was, where it went. No, did you use a secret method? Li Ju's face changed. Han Fei was stronger than before. He could clearly feel it. Han Fei was a little crazy. The more he fought, the fiercer he became, and the more powerful he was. But in his heart, the guy who created the crazy devil's rod killed 2 fishing masters with the strength of a fisherman, so it was not impossible for him to kill him. But after fighting for several minutes, Han Fei found that Li Ju didn't make a sound and didn't retreat at all. He seemed to be evenly matched with him. Huh! This old B**** starred wants to exhaust the spiritual energy in my body? Read 2.